Hello, chat. Welcome to the Urbanism and Transport podcast. It's only supposed to be a one-off podcast for now, but we'll see if we do end up doing this in the future. Never know. I'm your host. My name is Penbu, and joining with me here today are Xenotime and Eggy. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Hello. If I can go first, we didn't agree on an order. I'm Xenotime. I'm a science and programming VTuber who does all kinds of goofy chemistry stuff and makes things that I probably shouldn't make in my dorm room. Which is actually a spaceship, if you listen to my lore. I definitely said spaceship.
Yes. Yeah, I do, sometimes your experiments do worry me a little bit, but I trust you know what you're doing.
Yeah, for the record, I'm an actual chemistry major. I do know what I'm doing.
And I am Eggy. I have no qualifications, but I like to complain about things.
She knows more than she lets on. Now I know I've been to your streams, and you whenever you do talk about this topic, you have a lot to say. So I'm sure you'll have much to contribute here. All right. Yeah, and for me, I'm Penbu, the programming, puzzle gaming, and music making VTuber on Linux. I'm probably as qualified as Eggy here. We mentioned before stream that put together, Eggy and I are probably one Xenotime, because Xenotime here is the one who probably knows the most out of the three of us, and has the most experience out of the three of us in terms of this topic. But Xenotime, what is this topic?
This topic is two topics because it's urbanism and transport. So it's linked a lot. I don't know. I should say that I have experience in the sense of I've been to a bunch of places and taken a lot of trains, not in the sense of any official qualifications. I don't think any of us have some secret magic piece of paper or anything. But yeah, we can get into it. I know the first thing you were talking about is what urbanism means.
Yes. So Chad, do any of you have any experience with this topic? Any of you watched the urbanism videos? Because I know urbanism has been quite a hot topic over the last few years. Certainly, I got into it also in the last couple of years. Watching, I think for me, my primary source of this topic is not just bikes. I should really branch out into more, but that is primarily where I get my stuff from. Xenotime, over you.
Not just bikes, I feel like is the most mainstream one, or maybe not necessarily mainstream, but the most popular one.
Yeah,
RM
the most
Transit
well-known
is another good one. Yeah.
I think I've seen a lot pop up about specific cities as well. I've seen some channels that they're like, okay, we're doing trains, but just about the ones in one city, right? Or I think that I've seen a few channels pop up like that as well, where it's urbanism, but specifically in one area, which granted might just be because whoever's running it only lives in one place and they're like, well, I can talk about here, but yeah,
I haven't actually seen that many of those, but I've seen some, and I feel like it is a lot of just, well, you happen to live here. Or then they move and suddenly transit channel about Australia becomes transit channel about Switzerland. Well, I live in Switzerland now.
I think I don't remember the guy's name, but the guy who runs Not Just Bikes used to live in London, Ontario, and then he moved to the Netherlands. Which, as a Canadian, I can definitely relate.
Yeah, he's actually moved around a lot though. He doesn't talk about it as much in his videos, but he lived in a couple places in Europe, then went back to Canada, and has lived a couple places in Canada at least. He was in Belgium for a while.
Yeah, I think he lived a couple places in Asia too, so he does have quite the experience.
Oh yeah, Taiwan. That was one of them.
Yeah. So, going on to our list of topics then, what is urbanism? Xenotime, I think you might be the one who's most qualified to answer this one.
I can do my best with all of my impressive qualifications of sitting on lots of trains. The way I like to think about urbanism is like the sort of like dials that you have when it comes to designing or changing or sort of imagining a city. So you have like there's different zoning, like zoning is a big thing. It's like where do different activities happen? Should they all be totally separate? Do we have like mixed use zoning where they're all kind of mushed together and there's areas where all kinds of stuff is happening, which is more common in some parts of the world than others. There's the like overall structure of the city, which isn't something that I thought about as much in the beginning, but as I've like learned more and gone to more places, it's crazy how much the sort of like overall like macro structure of a city can influence like the way it feels just walking around it, walking down it. And then the last thing we have here is the other thing that's in the title, which is transport, because that affects like, I mean, people getting around cities is a big deal, and everything from like, can you walk, to the like huge regional train networks will affect like how life in the city happens. Everything.
I think actually how about we move on to my diagram here. I think that's a good lead into the rest of this topic here. Let me go ahead and pull that up.
Sure.
That is this one.
Right now.
Yeah, so for context here, in middle school, I had an assignment for I think it was social studies class where we had talked about city zoning and planning and all that, the different parts of a city, and one of our assignments was to design a city from scratch. And they didn't really give us any guidance on how we should do it, but this is what I came up with. Right there, I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. So
there we go.
If you look at this as not so much as categories, but you have the residential section and on the left end, and you have the industrial section on the right end, and then in between you have the school and recreation section, retail and office. And obviously cities, like real cities, don't look like this, but me being the organized person that I am, I figured this was a good idea because the industrial area is far away from the residential area, so you won't get all that smoke and stuff from that. And then the parents on their way to work, so in the retail and the office section, they can drop their kids off at school. So I thought it was pretty smart for this, but there's a very hidden assumption here, and something that I think North Americans are very ingrained with because they grew up with it and don't really know any better. Can anyone spot what that is?
Well, I mean, you're running with the assumption that people are dropping off their kids, like as opposed to like the kids getting buses to school or something, right?
Yeah, that's one thing.
That's definitely one.
Yeah.
Or are you assuming that people who work in industrial facilities don't have children?
Well, I think industrial portions are the industrial people, they still live in the same areas, right? So if they did have children, they would still drop their kids off at school, which is on the way. Yeah, the underlying thing here is that this is a very car-dependent city, so you can't really go anywhere without a car. The whole thing about the kids not being independent enough to walk to school because it's far enough that parents would have to drive them to school, or you have to use a car to get anywhere that's further out. And I mean, I guess you have buses too, but you're still relying on a motor vehicle to get anywhere, and for us in North America, that seems pretty normal, but there are better ways of doing it. So I have a topic here: dominance of the car. Why does it matter?
I do want to jump in and add like another sort of assumption is that these like should all be separate areas in the first place. Like some of them I feel like is pretty natural. Like, yeah, we should put the factory not next to the hospital or residential areas or whatever. But this is one of the things like we do a ton in North America is we're like, okay, this area is only for residential single family homes, and this area is like only for retail stuff. Whereas in other countries, like this is one of the big differences you'll see is like when you want to go grocery shopping. In North America, it's generally like, unless you happen to be in a city, it'll be something like, oh, every week or so you go grocery shopping, get all the stuff, you go drive out, go grocery shopping somewhere wherever the stores are, and then you go drive back to wherever the houses are. Because these are different, like totally different places in the first place. Whereas like when I was in Germany over the summer, I never like went grocery shopping as like an explicit thing to do. I was just on the bike back from work. There was a grocery store on the way because these aren't like separate areas, and then I would just go get groceries, like what I needed for the next 2 days.
Yeah, this was my experience when I was in Japan as well, to the point that like I think the first time I went to a Japanese grocery store, my brain didn't even process it as a grocery store. Because like I was used to grocery stores being like just like this giant building, right? With a big parking lot in front.
Yeah.
Like they're very obvious, right? Whereas like the grocery store, I remember I was given directions on how to get there, and I almost walked right past it because the entrance, like there was a parking lot for it, but it was underground, or it was in the back, or it was away from the road, right? So there was no parking lot in front. There was an entrance, and it wasn't even that big, and you just walked right in, and I was like, oh, that's the grocery store. It's right there, and it was still like a reasonable sized store once you went inside. But again, my brain didn't even process it as such because I had never seen a grocery store that wasn't just, a giant box.
A big box out somewhere.
Yeah.
I actually had a similar experience, not with groceries, but with like whatever your local country's equivalent of like Best Buy or like the big electronics store is. Because I needed my phone, like the charger I was using for my phone didn't work. I needed to get a new one, and I wanted to also get like a battery because I was traveling around a lot. It would be nice to have a phone battery, so when my phone dies, I'm not stranded in the middle of nowhere in Denmark or whatever, which may or may not have happened. But I was like, I was like, I guess I'll go to what I ended up doing was going to the grocery store, because the grocery store has like chargers or whatever, and for some reason I got really lucky. They were like half off, so that was all fine. But then when I was telling my like supervisor about it, they were like, why didn't you go to the Media Markt that's like connected to the train station? And it's just like, it didn't click to me that was like a possibility, that you could have your equivalent of Best Buy be like in the city center, like in the same building as the train station. But it was.
Yeah, I'm hearing all this. So I actually haven't traveled, I think outside of North America since I came here. So this all sounds pretty foreign to me. It would be nice to experience someday, I think.
Yeah, it's nice. And I don't know much about I mostly know about Europe because I've been to a bunch of different places in Europe, but I have never been to like Japan or something.
Well, that's good because I've been to Japan,
South
but I
America.
haven't been to Europe. So we got like some of the bases covered.
Yeah, we have like representatives from different.
Yeah. Well, moving on to well, I guess circling back to the car stuff. Then, why does it matter that that we shouldn't be too car dependent?
Because we will all eventually be old. We will all be old, and then we cannot drive. So we got that going. We got that to think about.
Or we shouldn't be driving.
Yeah, we shouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely people who are old and are still driving. I think out of necessity here, but definitely shouldn't have to. But if I may show another graphic here, just pull that up.
I was going to
here.
say, I think you have a graphic for this occasion.
Yeah, I do. I need to find a more efficient way of pulling these up, but here we go. But there's actually two graphics here. It's this one.
Double trouble.
Yeah. So there's that one, which I will zoom in so you can see it better. We have, in terms of, so this is a screenshot from one of Not Just Bike's videos, which is actually taken from NACTA, the National I looked this up earlier. It was national something. It's something about transportation, and this outlines the capacity for moving people. So we see here at the top we have private motor vehicles at 600 to 1600 per hour, and then you increase it with mixed traffic, so buses and cars. Then you get even more people moving when you have two-way protected bikeways, and then even more when you have dedicated transit lines, and then sidewalks, and then you move the most people with on-street transitway, bus, or rail. And so, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was thinking about this photo. If I would have thought about this ahead of time, I would have tried to find it. I saw it many years ago, but it was a picture where they had like 80 people, and they basically had them stand on the road, like without cars or anything, of just like standing as if they were all in cars. So they're all like spaced super far apart. And then like what it looks like if they're within like, you know, one bus, or if they're like carpooling where it's like 2 or 3 people per car, or like one train car where they're all put together. And it's like, yeah, like cars, everybody was like super spread apart. I'll see if I can find it. It was like an ancient picture. I think I saw this thing when I was in like high school.
Yeah, I think I've seen that one too.
That's like a good demo though. I don't know if I've seen the specific one.
I think it might have been. I think it might have shown up in a Not Just Bikes video, surely. But yeah, the reason for that is because you know, cars. There's a lot of space in cars that aren't the car, or that aren't people. Whereas on say a bus, you can pack a lot of people there. You know, during say if you ever taken the bus during rush hour, you know buses can get really packed, and you are packing in so many more people compared to in the span of what? Well, your bus is maybe 2 cars, as opposed to what a lot of people do is just you as the driver are the only passenger in the car, and you're taking up a lot of space on the road just for yourself.
Yeah, actually, this is a fun little aside. Is I don't know if you guys have these things. They're definitely around in the U.S. where they're like this. There's a little symbol for it. It's a little triangle. It's a little diamond, and they call them like high occupancy vehicle lanes. Where
the bus lanes.
In the U.S., not the bus lanes. That's something different. It should be the bus lanes, but in the U.S., a vehicle is designated as a high occupancy vehicle if it has like 2 or more people in it.
Yeah, we get that here too.
By this logic, I live in like a high density household because there's like 2 of us living in the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Alright, I received the image that Eggy was talking about. I'm just gonna load that in.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Alright. Not that one. I'm gonna show that a little bit bigger.
It always seems silly to me, but it never not worked in my favor. Because I was never in a car alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so silly to compare it with like other modes of transit. There we go, though.
There you go. So apparently I had to fix that that showcase scene because I don't have your models up there, but oh well. We don't have.
That's all right.
We have too many. We don't have too many to show anyway.
It's okay if we disappear into the ether for a little bit.
Yeah. One more car lane trust. We'll get to that in a bit. And if you're not here, that always seems silly to me. It's literally never not worked in my favor since I'm never in a car alone. Yeah, I mean, especially if so I personally don't drive. I had a G1 license. For those of you who aren't in Ontario, G1 license is basically your beginner's driver's permit. So I got that when I was in university. Never really used it for the next 5 years, and it expired. And then COVID came, and then it expired even more because they did extend it. And then I figured I'm not going anywhere. You know, I work from home. I don't have a car, and I don't go places where I need to have a car, and so I just get the license. So whenever I'm in a car, I'm always just a passenger.
Yeah, I'm
I
the
don't
same.
have
I
a
haven't.
license either.
I don't have a license either. I didn't. Well, the thing is like I wasn't particularly. I've never been particularly interested in driving because my logic is just that like even if I could drive, I'm like with what car? Like cars are expensive, and they only keep being expensive. So, yeah, I've been bus. I have been bus pretty much my whole life.
I used to bus around until I got a bicycle. The bicycle has been really freeing. So if you're in a city where you have good bicycle infrastructure, or at least half decent bicycle infrastructure, and you're maybe okay with going on the roads for a time, definitely go look into that, because it does, it saves you, well, I would say it saves you a bit of money, but you know, the bicycle does cost a bit, so there's that. But I think it's really freeing, and it helps you carry a lot of heavy stuff. Just the other day, actually, I carried 2 heavy bags of rice on the back of my bike. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I have a bike, but it's like at my house. All of the times I've gone biking, just like as like commuting and just going around, I haven't actually used the bike that I have. It's because I've been either at university or in Germany, I use like the bike share thing. So bike share systems, I think, are really cool when they're done right. They're not always done right, but where you have like the little docks with bikes, and then hopefully there's a bike there. That's one of the problems sometimes they have. Sometimes there's not always a bike at every dock, but hopefully you can just go grab a bike. And the nice thing about that is you can go from like one bike dock to any other bike dock. So you're limited a little bit by like, you have to end your trip at a dock. But it's nice because you don't have to worry about like, oh, I left my bike at the office and now took the bus to go somewhere else, and I have to go back to get my bike. It's nice in that regard.
I have not been on a bike since grade 11, but I have also never, I don't think within that time I have not lived in places that were good for biking. Like, I rode my bike a little bit in high school, but I just found that like, I don't know, I don't like biking on the road. I don't like biking on the road. I am not going fast enough. I am not worthy of being next to a car. So I just kind of stopped and then never picked it back up.
Yeah, I mean, that's entirely fair. So go ahead, Xenotime.
I don't like biking on a road either. That's why it matters to be in like bike infrastructure really matters. And thankfully, the city where I go to university, where I'm sitting right now, is one of the like lucky few in the U.S.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm okay biking on some roads. If it's 60 kilometers per hour or more, I'll probably maybe opt to bike on the sidewalk, which you aren't supposed to do, but also people overlook that if it's a safety point. Oh yeah, some roads are okay, and there are often times, if you look hard enough, there are routes that that you don't have to take roads for, because whereas a car, you're kind of stuck with the grid lines of the road. Sometimes with bicycles and even just walking, you will have the recreational trails, which do cut through some areas, which actually does lead to a faster trip sometimes.
Yeah, those kinds of like short, when letting like bike path or having like walking and cycling paths that take shortcuts, those are a really good system to have, because it makes bikes faster. It's not just that it makes it safer, it also makes it faster.
Yeah, I think even when it doesn't make it a little bit, even when it doesn't make it faster. So sometimes, I take a route, say to my parents' place, where it would be shortest, I think, to go on the road, but I choose to take the slightly longer path because it's away from the road, and it's using a recreational trail, and it's just a lot nicer to bike on. Not only in terms of safety, but also in terms of noise and things to look at.
Yeah, there's some really there's some really nice bike trails where it's like the road is like up farther, but then yeah, exactly, like the scenic route. Like there's there's been some times where I'm like, wow, I'm really glad I'm on a bike trail. This is such a nicer environment to pass through.
Reading out some messages here in chat. Unfortunately, when bikes get nerfed in the winter, yeah, I think I have heard of, say, Toronto taking some or all of the bikes away. They don't necessarily have to do that, because you can bike in the winter. I've biked in the winter quite a lot.
Hi, Warpy.
But yeah, I mean, I guess it is a bit of a maintenance cost where you have to clean the bikes and all that, make sure they're in good working order.
I think the other thing too that I've found in multiple Canadian cities where I have lived is that snow tends, when they shovel the snow, they tend to dump it on the side of the road, which oftentimes, if there's enough snow, ends up also going, if there's any like bike lanes on the side of the road, that's where the snow ends up being put. So I think that's the other issue with biking in the winter, is that like the infrastructure kind of disappears in favor of snow. But this is also an issue for sidewalks, so it's
a lot easier
that's
to
its
walk
own problem.
through.
Yeah, and I think that's not necessarily inherently anything to do with the winter, but more in what the city chooses to prioritize in terms of transport. Because I remember, actually, this was my first Not Just Bikes video, where he talks about how there are European cities, I think it was Norway or something.
It was Oulu in Finland.
Yeah, that's what it was, yeah. Where they get...
It's actually some of the people I work with in the lab went to for a conference. Random fun connection.
Yeah. Where they get as much snow as we do, at least. And they bike just fine because they actually prioritize cleaning up the bike infrastructure and all that. So it's more of a matter of management here, where we prioritize cars, and so the other infrastructure doesn't get as much attention. But it doesn't have to be that way.
I think it's also like a vicious cycle too, where people don't bike in the winter because the bike lanes are all just covered in snow, and so then when you go to ask the city, like, can you not have the bike lanes be covered up? They're like, what do you mean? No one uses the bike lanes in the winter.
Yeah. But I think that's also kind of a thing with a lot of stuff, because I've noticed that happen not just with bikes, but also with buses, with any kind of like transit as well, of just like, people aren't using this, so why should we keep devoting resources to it? And then it's like, well, no one's using it because you're not devoting any resources to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, self-perpetuating cycle. Actually, the latest, we keep going on Not Just Bikes videos here, and I think it's mostly me bringing them up, so sorry about that, but I was watching the latest one earlier before stream, the one about the Via Rail and the Ocean Line. And one of the things he talked about there was that CN, the railway company, used to own the sleeper trains, but they found that the freight was a lot more profitable, and so they started downplaying and stopped advertising the sleeper trains, and then they used that as fuel for nobody's using this. So yeah, it's definitely, there are definitely ways to spin it so that if you want it to look a certain way, you will make it look that way.
Sleeper trains, I've taken like 2 sleeper trains, I think. The first one had a whole crazy story attached to it, which I'm happy to tell if you are okay with us getting derailed, unintended, for a little bit. But the other train I took was the like Austrian night jet train. They run a bunch of the night trains, and this was like right after the pandemic. During the pandemic, they had like, no one was taking night trains during a pandemic, and so they scrapped a bunch of their like night train cars. And so when they came to start it back up again, all they had were like really old, like Soviet era train cars, and it was like there was like no power outlets in the thing. It was horrible. So night trains, I feel like, are a very good idea in theory, especially with the way they're like implemented, and especially in Europe, they need to be cheaper because right now they're expensive and suck. And it's like you can make them expensive or you can make them suck, but you can't do both.
Yeah, I want to take one someday. I didn't get a chance to. I know we have them here in Canada. I know there are some in Japan. I think the ones I've heard, the issue with the ones in Japan is that it's not necessarily the price that's an issue, but it's the fact that you have to reserve them so far ahead of time. Because I guess the number of passengers they can take is a bit more limited compared to like a Shinkansen or just like a normal train. So a lot of the time it's like, yeah, you better book this like several months in advance if you want even like a chance of getting on this thing. But I want to do it someday. I know there's one in Canada. I think it's connected to Amtrak. I think it's run by Amtrak. I think it's called like the Maple Leaf Express, and it runs from, I believe it's Toronto to New York City. It goes through like Niagara Falls, so it's kind of like that area. I want to ride that someday. I think it's not an overnight train, but it is like a 15-hour trip. So I think they do have an option that just like leaves in the evening and then you arrive the next morning. I kind of want to try that someday.
It was a fun, like, as an experience. I will give it that.
I've taken the one from Toronto to Vancouver, the famous Canadian. That was an experience. Although I hear things may be a little bit worse and more expensive these days.
I remember hearing actually from a Not Just Bikes video, so I guess we're all in the same camp here, that like recently Via Rail upped their prices a bunch.
They did. Sorry, I am the Via Rail taker.
Representative.
Not representative, but like if I have the option to take a train, I usually will, even if it is more expensive, just because I find it's just like a generally more pleasant experience compared to a bus. But yeah, Via Rail, so I don't know when it was. I think it was 2-3 years ago. They restructured their pricing system. So what they used to have was the standard economy fare. Then you had like business class and such. And then they had what they would call escape fare. That was basically, it was like a youth fare. So it was, I believe it was available for people between the ages of like 13 and 26 or something like that. Like it was supposed to be targeting like teenagers and university students. And that was like usually like a really good price. Then they changed it. So now I think escape fare, they like change escape fare. So it's not like a student price anymore. It's like a different type of economy. And then they like merged it into economy. And then now you have to pay for baggage, which is really annoying.
For a train, that's insane.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like, for a while I was kind of stuck paying for baggage because I only had one suitcase and it was too big. Like it was the large size. But yeah, like I think I sort of get why, but also it also is a pain. I wish, like, I wouldn't have minded if they would have like restructured all the ticket pricing. So if they would have just made the price of the tickets a little cheaper, but then make you pay for baggage. But obviously they're not going to do that. But I think it's also just like another thing I have to think about. I think one time I took business class because when I calculated it, it was a time when I was traveling with my big suitcase. So I was like, okay, if I do economy plus the extra fee for my suitcase, there's only like a $20 difference between that and business class, which comes with one free bag. So I'm like, might as well just pay the extra $20
oh my God.
and do business class. So that's what I ended up doing. So yeah, it's not good, but I don't know. I'm not to defend Via Rail, but I also don't think the Not Just Bikes videos are like an accurate assessment of it. I think he like overplays some of his complaints just a little too much. Like I know he talks about how like Via Rail says, oh, you need to show up like 40 minutes early for your train. I have shown up like 10 minutes early and still gotten on, because it's not like an airport. It's not like you have to go through security or anything. They usually just recommend you show up early it's not like it's not like an airport where it's like if you don't show up like super early, you're just not going to get through security on time and not get on your plane. It's usually they just tell you in case there's like delays or, you know, changes of plans so that you're not like showing up there 10 minutes and they're like, oh, actually the train isn't coming because of problems. So, yeah, I usually show up early, but like I've shown up like 10 minutes before and it was fine. Like I just got on the train as usual. They don't even scan your boarding pass until you're already on the train usually. So like they check your boarding pass when you get on, but they don't actually scan it. So it's not even like you have to like stand in line and wait for that either. So yeah, I think some of his complaints are a little over exaggerated, but they have made some changes that I don't care for.
Yeah, that's fair. He definitely is like overplaying some of it because he's talked about Amtrak too, and I've taken Amtrak trains. Amtrak does the really stupid thing where they make you get in a line before you are like allowed to go on the platform. Where it's so silly. Like they have you get in a line just in some random concourse where then they scan your tickets and stuff, and then you only once they like release you out to go on the platform to board the train. Especially like comparing that to the way it works in like the way it works in basically all of the German-speaking world is it's like proof of payment anyway, so they'll just like have random people checking tickets on the train. Other than that, it's just like totally honor system. And so you just like walk onto the train platform and walk onto the train. There's no ticket gate. There's no people there. No one you have to show your ticket. So you just get on the train. And like, obviously some countries have ticket gates and sometimes there are long lines of the ticket gates or whatever. Cough, cough, France, cough, cough. The, like, going back and forth between that and the crazy US system is something else.
I don't know, yeah, now that I think of it, in Japan, when I took the Shinkansen tickets, they worked almost the same as like regular train tickets, unless you had a reservation, but even then you would still deal with that at the same kiosk. Where yeah, basically you would buy your ticket and then you would slide your ticket into the ticket gate the same way you would if you were taking any other kind of train there. And then you would just go to the platform. Like, it's not like somebody was there. There wasn't any lines, I guess, unless a lot of people were trying to get on at once. But I think the difference is that the train platforms for the Shinkansen were much bigger. That's the only thing I can think of, is probably just that depending on the station, some of the Via Rail platforms might not be wide enough to like safely accommodate everybody standing there waiting for their train. That's the only explanation I can think of for why they would like wait to let people on.
That feels like it would make sense. They shouldn't do that. Like that's still a problem that they have those tiny train stations. And I remember that being a problem in like Eastern Europe, and where it's like, oh, the Soviets decided to save money by building this in this poor Eastern European country, which maybe is not the greatest thing to compare, Canada with. Amtrak boarding is so variable depending on every station. Every station I've been, it's like that. I don't know if it's always like that.
Yeah, I think it's probably the system is a little different if you're at like a bigger station versus a smaller one. Because I've been to both. I've been to like, big central city stations, and I've been to like ones that are kind of in the middle of nowhere. And usually like the way it works is very different. The ones in the middle of nowhere they don't make you wait to get onto the platform. Like you can honestly, some of the platforms you can access without even going through the station. But yeah, the big
That's
city
nice.
ones are the ones that make you like line up and stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. That I still feel like having experienced like the whole, I can't say the whole spectrum, but different ends of the spectrum. Like the not having fare gates at all and having like the proof of payment thing is so nice in terms of like convenience and stuff. And like I have shown up at the train station like 30 seconds before my train leaves and made it. Should I have done that? Probably not. But I take like 30 seconds to walk out from the, station entrance onto the train.
We can't make it too easy for them to board, otherwise everyone's going to show up late.
Yeah. No, usually I show up like 5-10 minutes early, depending on how big the station is.
Yeah, I think even for, I mean, I can't say I have the experience of riding, those big trains, but I have ridden the commuter trains here, and yeah, there have been times where I just go up and show up like a minute or two before it actually leaves. So I can definitely believe people just, if it's too easy, you know.
Those are commuter trains, though.
Yeah, I mean there's quite a difference. Commuter trains would I think are a lot have to be a little bit more convenient to use.
Yeah, definitely. Like going this way, I meant like showing up to a commuter train like 10 minutes early would be something else.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're still encouraged to do so, but yes.
Yeah, having to, or having it be a reasonable decision to show up to a commuter train 10 minutes early.
Yeah. I do want to go back to some of the questions in chat here. Thoughts on docked versus dockless public e-bike / e-scooter systems. So the difference here being, with docks you have very specific places where you can pick up the bike or scooter and you have to put it back at specific spots, or as opposed to the dockless system where you can drop it off or pick it up from anywhere with limitations. So for example, for a lot of the scooters, they might ask you to drop it by say a bus station. I think there are definitely pros and cons to both approaches. The dockless is more convenient if there are enough of them around and they're distributed enough. But I think docked, if you don't have that kind of distribution, it might be better overall. But sometimes you're far away from one.
Yeah, it's weird because I've only ever seen like truly docked bike share systems. I've never seen a truly docked scooter system, and I've never seen a truly dockless bike share system. I've been in some, like when I was in Germany over the summer, I used like the bike share bikes, and they weren't like, there wasn't like a physical dock. It was just like a geofence like area where it's like you have to leave it here specifically. So they were like virtual docks, I guess you could call them. There was still like it still worked as like a dock system. The nice thing about, in my opinion, the nice thing about docks, and especially really like the physical docks, is that lets you have e-bikes, which especially if it's a very hilly city or you're traveling long distances, e-bikes are really nice. And unless you have like a physical thing that the e-bikes are always plugged into so they can charge, like bike share doesn't really work that well as far as I know. But I wish there'd be more dockless bike systems rather than just the scooters. I guess people are worried they get stolen, but there's the same problem with scooters. Like, I'm not really sure what the difference there is.
Bikes are probably more expensive though.
Yeah, and it's probably hard. It's probably a lot easier to like just rip out the extra stuff they tacked on it and resell it as just a normal bike. Whereas if you sell like some random like proprietary scooter from a scooter company, it's very obvious where it came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have I'm in an area where they have scooters, and I would consider using them if there's one particular company scooters, I think, that has terms of service where it says they can use your image for advertising and whatnot in perpetuity. I felt a little bit uncomfortable with that, so I didn't.
Where are they getting your image in the first place?
Well, I mean, I think it's if they manage to get it, then they can. I don't think anyone's going around with a video camera and trying to capture people with their scooters, but you never know.
Oh, I haven't seen that, but maybe I just didn't read the terms of service closely enough.
Five Nine here, wear something unmarketable. I suppose, yeah, that's a strategy.
Could work. Put some have a shirt with a swear word on it or something. scare the advertisers.
Or even funnier for one of the competitors.
Yeah, the thing is, docks versus dockless, I feel like there's cases for both. The scooters versus bikes. I do not like the scooters. I do not the scooters because in my opinion, the scooters are just like bikes but worse. Because everything that you can do on the scooter, you could do with a bike. I guess cheaper as the scooter, but they're also they're kind of sketchy quality sometimes. And so one time, also this summer, I'm nowhere near a bike station, and I need to go get back to the lab area to go give a presentation on something. And so I'm like, I know, here's the scooters. I'll take the scooters. It'll be super fast. I need to be super fast because there's no bike or anything here. The bus isn't coming for 8 minutes or something. I'll take the scooters. And I take the scooter, and the road is kind of bumpy, and I'm going along the road, and I have to turn, and I'm like, okay, wait, shit, I'm gonna crash into this tree or whatever. And I slam down the brake pedal, and it does not brake. And so I go flying into some random garden, and then I think by that point I was close to a bike station, so I biked the rest of the way.
I mean, I'm sure some of it is that everyone learns to ride a bike as a kid, but most people don't really learn to scoot. You don't really, there's no dedicated scooting lessons or your
yeah,
your
it just
parents
felt a
are gonna,
lot harder
take
to
you out
control.
scooting. Yeah.
And after that I was like, okay, these scooters are dumb. I don't like the scooters. But it was okay. The presentation was fine after I washed up and got the. Hold on, because I went face first into this.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes I had initially felt that way a little bit about the bike share bikes, because the first one that I was on, I don't think was very well maintained, so I kind of assumed all the bikes were like that. Although I tried another one a couple more times just to make sure that it wasn't just a one-off, and it seemed like it was mostly a one-off. Although I am a lot more comfortable on my bike because I have it set up the way I like it.
The maintenance of the bike shares feels like a big deal.
Okay, actually, no, I can think of one use case for scooters, actually, now that I think of it. Because I have not used bike share, I have not used the scooters, but my one use case for scooters, and this is probably something that neither of you have had to think about, is when you are wearing a dress. Because some dresses you can ride a bicycle in, and other dresses you really, really shouldn't ride a bicycle in. Either for safety or for, presentation purposes. That is one use case I can think for scooters, is if you are wearing something that might not be good for biking.
This is the wonderful world of North America being North America. A bike that fits, lets you have skirts and stuff where it doesn't there's none of that. There's that bar in the middle isn't there. It's it's not going to get caught in anything. Was invented hundreds of years ago and has been the standard bike, the default bike across all of Europe for 100 years now.
Yeah, if you look down here, it's below me on the table there. We actually do have those bikes there. We have the little dip in the middle.
Yeah, thankfully the ones that are for our bike here are like that. But if you just see a bike, you just buy a bike. A lot of times they have this stupid connecting bar thing in the middle, and it's we have a solution to that. We have for a long time.
I mean, I will say, I think it's called a crossbar. Don't quote me on that. That might be wrong. I have one on my bike, and it's been pretty useful because I can hang stuff off there. Particularly my lock, which would be kind of heavy to carry otherwise. But yeah, I think for general use,
Do you have like a basket?
I have a rear rack.
Okay.
But yeah, the way it's set up is that it hangs on there and it's secure and all that. Sometimes I need to take it off because I can't have a water bottle and the lock at the same time because it takes up too much space. So if I need an extra water bottle there, I'll put the lock elsewhere. But otherwise, if you can put weight on your frame, that's better.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I have one more word when it comes to bikes and scooters. And I know that this is not the fault of the bikes and scooters. But I do remember a city where I have lived previously had this issue where there was a program for renting bikes and scooters in specific parts of the city. The problem is that those parts of the city did not have the infrastructure for people to have a place to put them when they weren't using them. So what would happen is people would rent these bikes and scooters, and they would, be riding it around the city, and they would stop into like a store or a restaurant, or they go in somewhere, and then they would leave their stuff out on the sidewalk, often in the way. So this is one of those things where this is this is very much a infrastructure problem where, there's racks for when people are taking them and for when people are done with them, but in the meantime, there's not really anywhere for people to be able to put them. And some businesses would allow you to take them inside, but a lot of them wouldn't. So that I think is also like another hurdle when it comes to this. I think is like, where do you put them when you're not using them? Like, is there a safe spot to put them, or are people just going to be like putting them in the middle of the sidewalk again?
Yeah, no, I think no matter what, as long as you have some kind of dockless system, you're gonna have to deal with that. I know, some cities have tried to make parking spaces, and for that, these special parking spaces where you're supposed to put scooters and things, and try to encourage people to use them. As far as I know, it has not gone very well. I know Stockholm is the place that I've done in that, the only place I've been in that really made an effort, and they had little scooter parking spots everywhere, and no one bothered to use them. People are lazy. You're gonna have a dockless system. I feel like that's. Yeah, I don't know what's the solution to that other than have docks.
Yeah, you kind of need to give people incentives, but it's kind of hard to make incentives for that kind of thing. Without
I don't remember. They had some. Yeah, they had some kind of incentive in Stockholm, but I forget what it was. It might have been it was a little bit cheaper or something. But whatever it was, it didn't work. At least not very well.
Frost VT here says scooters are likely a lot more foldable and portable than bikes as well. And that is a good point. And sometimes I felt like I've wanted a scooter for that reason. Because when I was commuting every day, before COVID, I had thought, and I walked from the train station until my workplace, which is about a 20-minute walk. Wheels would have been nice, but you can't take your bikes on the train at rush hour because of space reasons. So it would have been nice to have something like a scooter. It probably wouldn't have been electric, but you do have that the portableness of the scooter going for you.
Yeah, I feel like that's. I agree with that. The thing that I have beef against is the ride share scooter thing. And in that case, you're not taking it on the train or anything. I don't think you're allowed to do that. It's for getting to the train station or whatever. But for a personal, when it's your personal scooter or whatever, I think that makes sense, and it's probably a big deal. You have to there are some places where you can often take a bike onto a bus or a train, as long as it's not super crowded, but sometimes there's an extra fee or something, and I don't think they usually have that for scooters, but I'm not super familiar with that. But I think for having a personal scooter definitely makes sense.
Okay, and here, time to bring back Heelys. I actually did consider that as a possibility, or roller skates or something, because wheels, they're very nice.
A friend I know, a friend of mine has like a homemade like electric longboard they build. They're not the only ones though. Stuff like that. It's cool.
New transit program. Buy everybody a pair of Heelys.
Yeah. Or you could go the other way and be like, transit is so bad that Heelys are now a serious alternative.
That requires
we can be
pedestrian
optimistic.
infrastructure, though.
That's true. Even Heelys aren't enough.
I got a question here. What are your thoughts on motorcycles for getting around the city? I use a DRZ 400. It's pretty good for city riding. Anyone want to take that?
My thoughts are that where I live, motorcycles are unusable for about half the year due to snow. Although, when I lived in Japan, when I was in Japan, I lived in Kobe, and Kobe does not really get snow. And I cannot understate how popular motorcycles and motor scooters are in Japan, just because, like, the roads are almost better built for those than they are for cars. Like, they're narrower, and a lot of people will just have a scooter or a motorbike because, like, even if you wanted to have a car, it's like, okay, well, you gotta park this thing. Like, where are you gonna put it? There's, you're in an area with very little parking. So, yeah, I just don't think it's an option universally, just because of safety and weather reasons.
I have also been to spent a good amount of time in a country that I am now a citizen of, where they have lots of mopeds and motorcycles, which is Italy. And generally, like, I think, like, if it's replacing a car, it's definitely a bajillion times better. There are, like, sometimes they can be a little scary, and especially if it's like a mostly like pedestrianized area, and then it's scary when like some moped is like flying through there super fast. But other than like flying through pedestrian areas at super duper high speeds and like being irresponsible, and the other thing that I think is generally not a good idea is having mopeds on like bike paths. Italy doesn't have as many bike paths, and I think it varies a lot by like local regulations whether or not they're allowed. In the Netherlands, they're usually almost everywhere they're allowed on bike paths, except in Amsterdam. And like you can feel the difference. You can tell Amsterdam made the right decision with that. But that's just like the specific case of them going on bike paths versus not. I think in general they're not bad at all.
I think for me, I'm a little bit mixed here because on the one hand, they are probably better than cars in terms of, I mean, definitely better than cars in terms of like capacity and moving people. But they're also loud. They also smell. And in my opinion, in most cases, you're probably better off with an e-bike.
Yeah, like I feel like if it's
every time I've been in a car on the highway, I always get jump scared by motorcycle noises because even when they're moving at a normal speed, they're quite loud. You think you're being approached by some like sports car or something, and it's like, no, it's just a motorcycle going at like normal speed limit.
Yeah, I feel like if they're replacing a car, then that's a much better trade-off. But if they're replacing a trip that you could do by like bike instead, then it's probably better. Like I don't think e-bikes are like quite at the level where they could replace every moped journey ever, but they're getting pretty close. And yeah, it's like they're also like, yeah, e-bikes are more expensive, but like motorcycles are expensive too. So I think e-bikes are like probably a better alternative to most things, but they're not going to be, not every case where you're using a moped. You're going to be able to just be like, now I'll use e-bikes for that.
So here, most stock exhausts are pretty quiet these days. They could be. I mean, they probably are, but then also factor in the perhaps this is a stereotype, but factor in the type of people who are likely to use a motorcycle, and maybe they do use it in ways that make it loud anyway.
And also just the number of people who are probably driving older models as well.
That too.
Yeah. No, I don't have like animosity against them. Like I think they're a lot of times people are using them instead of a car, and I think that's good. But that doesn't mean they're like the best option. I think a lot of times you're right that they could just be bikes.
Faye here. I want to join this podcast. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you can. I was reading the same thing.
Oh, yeah, Faye here. I want to join this podcast with the express purpose to quote one old man that once said, "We pay $1 to travel like a bunch of canned sardines frying in the sun."
A good quote.
I'm not sure what you're referencing. Faye, I don't know what you're referencing. I'm not old enough. I'm...
Presumably, well, actually, yeah, I don't know. Like, it could be...
Because my first thought was like, is this a Simpsons quote? Because it sounds like a Simpsons quote, but I don't think it is a Simpsons quote because I feel like I was not old enough to quite watch The Simpsons at its heyday, but also I've
oh my
heard
God,
enough
wait.
Simpsons quotes to kind of get the vibes of what one sounds like.
An actual old man said it. All right. So we have a primary source here. I've definitely I've been on the metro. Usually it's metros that are always really crowded, or a bus line that should be a tram line, but they haven't done that yet because they're lazy.
Oh yeah, where I lived, previous Eggy city, they eventually built a train, but what they had before the train was this corridor for buses. And I remember it got the nickname of the bus snake or the omnibus because at rush hour it would literally just be end-to-end buses for several miles of just because again it was all the buses trying to pass through the bus corridor all at once and they were all headed in the same direction. So yeah, people just called it the bus snake because that's kind of just what it was. It was just endless. It would look like one endless bus.
Oh my gosh. I've definitely seen that pattern before in places where this should not be a bus. And I know there's a sort of statistics where the Toronto streetcar had to replace one of the streets the streetcars were running on with buses, and they were spending I think it was $1 million a month because buses are really expensive. If you're moving, not that many people, buses are fine. But if you're moving a lot of people, buses are way more expensive than rail.
Yeah, I guess maybe cities opt for them because you don't have to build anything. You just send out a bus and that's it.
Yeah, it's definitely the easier option, and you can also just change your mind.
Yeah, there's a nearby there's a Toronto suburb, Mississauga, that has a dedicated bus rapid. What is it called? Where they have infrastructure.
BRT?
I guess it is BRT. Yeah, where the only thing that can go on the specific road is a bus, and on the road just connects different stations. That never made sense to me, because if you're going to do that, you may as well build an actual, you may as well build rail, right?
Yeah.
It gets even better than that, because I remember hearing about the Mississauga Transitway or whatever it was, because it was so overbuilt and so contracted out that it actually cost more to build, multiple times more to build per kilometer than comparable tram network.
Yeah, not surprising.
Wonderful. Yeah. No, I try not to dox myself here. I live in a city which has a BRT, and it's often regarded as one of the good ones. When people talk about BRT systems in the US, this is actually a good one. Actually, it worked really well. It's not that good. It's really not that much nicer than a crowded bus. It's just a crowded bus that gets stuck in traffic slightly less often. It's still, and the roads that it goes on are crazy bumpy in some parts, and it's just silly. Yes, it would have cost a bit more upfront, but it should be a tram or something.
Yeah, that's been my experience with similar kind of transit ways as well. It's just this should have been a train. And I mean, in the case of where I used to live, they are very, very slowly turning it into a train, but this should have been a train in the first place. Like, this was not, because in the winter it can still get backed up. That's the thing, is that like usually with the railway you have like one train, like there's a limited amount of trains going at once, whereas like I feel on the transit ways what I found is that sometimes they just like, I guess they start with a few routes and then they add more and more routes, because I feel like I've definitely gotten stuck in traffic in places in bus only lanes where it was traffic entirely made of buses.
Yeah, and a lot of the bus-only lanes still have to deal with intersections.
Yeah.
So, the bus isn't stopping for. It's nice that the bus not stopping for traffic like within a block, but there's still intersections you have to deal with and stuff. And yes, trams can do that too, but like, generally we build trams in a separated corridor, and they're also a much nicer ride quality, and they're cheaper, and you can do all kinds of cool stuff with them. I have had for far too long. I have had like a half a script of a video about trams. It will come out eventually.
Streetcar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Want to highlight something you said there. They're cheaper. With the asterisk, they're cheaper in the long run. Punctuation here says
Right.
Transportation Commission or whatever they're called probably looked at the upfront costs and are like, ooh, buses. Well, long term sucks. Yeah. Because buses are going to be cheaper upfront because most cities already have them too. Whereas with rail, you have to have, dedicate. You have to build the rail, and then you have to acquire the stock. Whereas buses, paving a road is for a city that has that already paves roads is fairly cheap, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
I think buses also kind of avoid the issue of construction, because I know I have lived in a few places that have been under construction for new transit lines, and everybody complains about it all the time. And I mean, it's true that nobody likes construction, like it's inconvenient for everybody, but it also kind of is the necessary evil of getting new stuff, which I guess buses, again, you don't need to build anything aside from maybe some stops for buses, right? So you kind of also avoid the thing of like everyone complaining about how their neighborhood has been under construction for 9,000 years.
Yeah, this is what's so great about Germany, is the neighborhood has always been under construction for eternity. Everything in that country is always under construction, so like no one will even notice. What do you mean they're building a tram line? They're already ripping out the street to install new wires and rebuild the road.
Yeah, it was actually in a Not Just Spikes video where he said that constant construction is actually good because it means that people will remember how to build transit lines and all that. Because if you don't have, if you aren't constantly improving your transit network, you're going to forget. And training people to have that knowledge again is going to slow things down and cost more.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons that like the numbers are like crazy. We regularly in like North America, and especially the English-speaking world, just more generally, spend like 5 to 10 times the cost per kilometer of things in other countries. And a big part of this is that instead of like having a transit agency that's been building stuff for a long time and accumulating knowledge and like getting good at figuring out how do we build metros here and stuff, how do we build trams here, how do we do all this stuff, and it just they're like, well, we don't have those people, and so even if stuff does get built, it's we'll contract it out to some random contractor that's going to overcharge us.
I think the other thing too is just that like it's not just that with construction, I think it's also that like the transit lines here legitimately have to be longer, I think, in North American cities, because like even smaller cities physically take up more space. Because I've noticed that in some places, like especially coming back from Japan to Canada, I was like, everything is so wide. Everything takes up like twice as much space as it needs to. So I can also see that like these projects are probably like the costs are different because just by like what is the numbers length of the line that we are building is probably like the numbers are probably different than they are in other countries.
I will say that the cost that like I know and where it's like 5 times or whatever, that's the cost like per kilometer.
Mhm.
So even even then it's still bad, but that's definitely like it's still, you know, a cost regardless, and it's a big problem is how much our like cities here and just even the smaller places sprawl. Everything's so big.
Yeah, and because of zoning laws, it's actually illegal, or supposedly actually illegal to build anything else.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a
No,
lot
I
of
think to be fair,
regulatory things.
to be fair,
Sorry,
I
you
think
go.
in my experience, it's also like 80% parking lot. Like
That's what I was gonna say.
I remember
Parking minimums.
I had a job once. I had a part-time job, and when I would leave work to get to the bus station to go home, it was about a 20-minute walk. There was a closer bus stop, but fewer buses went there, so I usually prefer just to walk to the station. It was a 20-minute walk. Probably like 15 of those 20 minutes was just like going through parking lots. Because it was like, okay, I would like leave work, I'd have to get out of the parking lot for the place where I worked, and then I would have to walk through the parking lot of a like a Walmart and then another grocery store, and then I'd be at the bus station. And it was like, there is no way we need this much parking, right? There is no way, like, I don't think I've ever seen a time when like every single one of those spaces was taken. Like, I think I guess it's also just like, in Japan, people still drive cars, and there still is tons of parking, but I think because they have less space to work with, they're a bit more efficient with it. Like, you have a lot of like parking garages that are like multi-story, or you got like underground, or I remember once seeing like a building that was like, the parking was on the roof of the building. Like, it was like a large big box store, and like the parking was on the roof. And yeah, you don't really see that here. Usually they just go for the easiest option.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a building with parking on the roof. That's kind of fun. But yeah, it's definitely the case in the EU as well, where it's like everything's so much denser that what do you mean you're gonna like take up like a block size? You're gonna have a block size parking lot. We don't have that much space.
Yeah, I wonder if we would take the same attitude if we also didn't have as much space to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, like counterfactual.
A punk agent here is someone go back in time and tell those people to keep the rail tracks instead of ripping them out. It's a good point that you raised there, because prior to the introduction of the cars in masses, cities did often have tram networks, and so they're very functional with the tram networks. And then when they started modernizing to make way for the cars, they ripped them out.
And the same was true of like the intercity rail. A lot of that in North America is gone, and they ripped a lot of out. They ripped out a lot of it in other countries too. They just put it back and ripped out. Like there's even other stuff too. Like there's the example where the city of Utrecht in the Netherlands. I maybe only thought of that because I'm wearing a Utrecht University shirt right now, but they have like this canal that goes all the way around the city, and in like the height of, you know, car culture, everything's gonna be highways. They filled in the canal and turned it into a giant highway, and they've since turned it back into a canal, like in the last, I think, 10-ish years, and it's really nice now. You can go out and like, it's like, oh, this is actually like, there's a little like park thing that kind of follows it. It's really nice, but you can also tell like something's a little bit off. It's interesting because it's really nice. It's this nice little park. It's so much like emptier than the areas that are like right around it, and so even though they've like undone it and turned it back into a canal, you can still feel like the shadow of like just how much damage it being a highway did.
I think there was a similar case in Korea too, from what I remember in Yet Another Not Just Bikes video.
Yeah.
where they
I'm going with,
was it that one?
oh, I was gonna say I'm going with the Utrecht example because I have a much better shot at pronouncing Dutch than pronouncing Korean.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, in that in the Korean example, it used to be a highway and or some sort of road or something, and they took it out and traffic actually improved.
There's a name for that. I forget what it was.
I don't remember. Veritasium did a video on that recently, where was it Veritasium or was it Steve Mold? Might have been. It was one of those two. But basically, if there are certain there's certain stress levels where
Oh, the springs.
yeah, springs, yeah, certain stress levels where if you
Yeah,
have
I think that was
alternate
Steve
routes,
Mold.
oh, maybe it was, yeah. Certain stress levels, so where you have alternate routes that aren't as stressed, but you have the link in the middle. Depending on the ratio of the stress that they're under, cutting the middle link might actually end up with less stress overall or something like that.
Yeah, and then the Steve Mold video was he like built like a model of that with like springs instead of roads. You could see like with this little assembly of like ropes and springs. And if you cut one of the ropes in the middle, like a weight would go up, even though you cut part of it. It was a cool, really cool demo. It's been a while since I saw that.
Look back and chat here, see if we missed anything.
Yeah, plenty more topics in the doc too.
Yeah, somehow managed to bring it back there.
I know we've like it's been like what, close to 2 hours? No, 1 hour and a half.
It's only been an hour and a half. We have time for
We've gone through like 10 lines of
I
doc.
mean,
It's
to be
great.
fair, I think we've gone through most of what's in the notes, and I'm looking at it. It's just that we did it in the wrong order.
You might be right, actually, now that I scrolled deeper through it. Yeah, we definitely hit like at least something on almost all of the like categories, even if we didn't go that like specific into them.
Yeah, I mean it's not like the doc is be all end all anyway. It's there in case we don't.
Yeah,
have
yeah,
anything
no,
to say.
it's not our
Yeah.
goalies for sure.
For a sec here, I thought this was going towards the phantom traffic jams. So that's another thing, I guess. So the way that waves work is that, and I think this is in part to do with human reaction time, because with if you have, actually I'll get back to that. Because there's a delay between, say, a stoplight changing from red to green, and then the person accelerating, and then the person behind them accelerating, there's actually a wave of how do I want to say that? There's a wave that goes backwards, and so if, say, you have a bird or chicken or moose on the road or something, somebody stops, and then the person behind stops, and then the person behind them stops, that wave propagates behind, and even though the original thing that got people to stop is gone, that wave still persists. I think what was it? I think it was CGP Grey who did a video on that. He had also done a video on the solution to traffic, which I very much disagree with, in which he says that if you have AIs running the cars, they can stop and start synchronously, so you won't get that wave. But if you have the cars stopping and starting at the same time, then what do you get? You have a train.
Yeah, except a train that's worse in like every way. And also still has like, what about, and it's like, yes, okay, this would solve the problem where like a chicken crosses the road and, you know, someone stops for it, but then even after that people are still telling the joke. It's like you still have like problems of there's a bajillion cars here and you have problems
What's
with
that one?
intersections.
What's that one saying? I seem to remember people talking about this. Sorry, I saw somebody in chat mention the Hyperloop, so I was like, I think somebody
Oh
had said they're
no,
like, you
not
know,
the hyper
eventually every tech bro just like accidentally invents a bus or something like that. Like, I
Yeah,
don't remember
they
exactly
either
what the wording
accidentally
was. It
invent
was something
buses
like
or
that.
trains.
Yeah, just like
It's such a thing though. Like I know Uber had the like all the ride sharing companies had their round at this. Where like, what if we made a slightly bigger Uber that ran on a pre-designated route that you rode with other people in?
yeah, on a schedule. And it's like
Yeah, that ran on a predetermined
bus?
schedule. This is the no, it's the Lyft shuttle magic 42069.
I don't know. I guess some of it here, and I know this was also something that I've noticed between North America and Japan, is that just the way people talk about public transit is a little different. Because I feel like here, like, buses are considered like a thing you use when you're too poor to drive, or you're a student, or
Yeah.
you're like for whatever reason you don't have your license. Whereas in Japan, it's like, yeah, people take the bus, people take the train. That's just what people do, right? Like, many people have cars, but like it's not something that everyone is assumed to have, and not having a car isn't like a sign that you've failed at anything necessarily, right? The same way that it is here, where it's like, oh, you don't have a car, you're taking the bus, like. So I think people kind of conceptualize it differently too.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And it's like when the public transit is actually like decent, then it's like, oh, this is though it's not that you're driving, it's not that you aren't driving because, or it's not that the majority of people who are taking the bus are doing so because they don't have any other option or can't afford a car. It's because you don't have to sit in traffic and it's nice, and the bus goes where you want to go, and you don't have to do the driving.
Yeah.
I think we have to pull
No,
up
that's definitely true.
I think we have to pull up the not just bikes quote. There is no solution to traffic except viable alternatives to driving, and one such alternative would be proper bus and public transit. And as long as public transit is worse, people are still going to take their cars, and that status symbol will perpetuate.
Yeah, and I think there's another thing where it's like, this is something that just like just talked about, but it has like its own fancy name, which I also don't remember. Very, very qualified here. Talk about all this, but it was like it's like transit vehicles will like continue to get stuck in traffic until like nobody takes them anymore. No, I'm saying this completely wrong. It was like if your transit vehicles get stuck in traffic, then eventually like there's no benefit to taking the bus because people aren't getting the bus. I'm totally messing this up. There's something like that too.
Yeah,
no, I follow.
It's all crab and biology. Sorry, go ahead.
I guess that also comes with how, like, because I've also talked to a lot of people who don't take public transit, and I think that's also another part of it, is just people who don't take it will often treat it as it's like not their problem, which fair, they don't take it, but you know, if the buses suck, that's going to have ramifications for people who do not take the bus, right? Like, that's gonna be more car traffic for you. Like, I think a lot of times I've talked to people who, again, they don't take public transit, and they just, because of that, they just end up having zero investment in it, which I don't know how to make people invested in public transit.
Right, because it's like, even if you are never going to take this bus, other people are going to take the bus instead of driving, and then there's less traffic.
Yeah.
For everyone. Yeah. Also, I found the thing. The fancy name is the Downs-Thomson paradox, also known as the Pio-Knight-Downs paradox, where the speed of car traffic on a road network is determined by the speed of like the next best alternative to driving. So car traffic will flow. The only way to make car traffic faster is to make public transit faster.
Yeah, and this was in another Not Just Bikes video where it talked about how the TTC subway was actually made to reduce car traffic. So it is definitely a thing that people know about, and then perhaps choose not to not to invest in.
Yeah, it's still crazy to me. Like there's this like meme or something. I don't know if you can call it a meme, but like I've seen passed around where it's a little chart where people show like the like Toronto subway from like 10 or 20 years ago versus like now. And the Toronto subway, it's like Toronto subway 10 years ago and Toronto subway now. It like looks exactly the same. There's like, I don't know, 4 lines. How many lines are in the Toronto subway? Something like that. Not that many. And then there's like the picture of like the next row is like the Chengdu subway or something, where it's like 10 years ago, there were 0 subway lines. Today, there are like 10.
Yeah, well, the Toronto actually...
Was Chengdu... I seem to remember, was that the city that was like building stations around nothing because there was like plans to build more stuff in the area? So they were like, was that the place?
They're definitely not the only people to do that.
Because I definitely remember hearing like a news story about like people being like, haha, they're building train stations in the middle of nowhere. And it's like, well, actually, they will be somewhere in like a couple years when they build all these apartment buildings kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know about Chengdu specifically, but I've definitely seen that model in many other places. So like Hamburg in northern Germany, they extended the metro line. They spent a huge amount of money to extend the metro line to this island, which right now is just like no one lives there. It's just industrial stuff. But now that there's a metro line there, they can put a bunch of apartments there and have people living there. And I've seen similar things in other places, often near water, which is kind of weird now that I think about it.
Yeah,
I guess it's just like harder if it's an island.
Yeah, there's a name for this. It's called transit-oriented developments. It's where you build the line and then you build the stuff around the line afterwards. And so it guarantees that you are connected to the transit network. Because it's a lot harder to build something first and then connect it afterwards, because you may not have, say, the resources, or you may not be able to route things as well as you would have liked. And so if you build the transit first, then you guarantee that you have a connection to the rest of the network.
Yeah, actually, this is a good segue into, if you want to show the Copenhagen thing.
Sure, let me pull that up. That's gonna be this one.
So like, there's two sort of things here. There's like the model of like transit-oriented development, right? We'll build stuff like along the rail line. We'll build the rail line, and then we'll put our like development along that. And there's also the question of like, how do we have a city grow without having sprawl everywhere like North America does? And when one of the approaches to this was with Copenhagen, capital of Denmark. When it was like the post-war years, they were trying to come up with a plan on how are we gonna, organize the city. And they came up with the now famous finger plan, where the idea is the city's gonna be shaped like a hand, and we'll have like the main sort of trunk of the city in the palm, and then we'll have fingers of development, which will go along the rail lines, in this case, the S-train lines, which are gonna sort of follow out. And we'll build developments along there, and then in the middle, in between the fingers, is where they'll just be like farmland and stuff. So we can have, continue expanding development, but all of that development will be connected to rail in the city. And also, we're not going to have like crazy sprawl everywhere, because it's not just like a free-for-all. It's going to be structured based on this, like finger plan. It was all set by the S-Bahn is the German word which people use to describe this. I sometimes say S-train. In Danish, it's S-tog. S-tog. But and today, like, it's obviously it's not like a perfect plan, but it's worked pretty well. And no small part of it is how good the Copenhagen S-tog is. So this is like a very long suburban rail network. It's much bigger actually than the finger. Like, it's been extended over the years, and so now it looks like a hand with like unnaturally long fingers. But the S-tog is really, really good. It's like 10 minutes, at least 10 minutes everywhere. And the idea, what makes, like I keep saying, like S-train or S-Bahn, the idea behind an S-Bahn is that you have a bunch of different suburban routes, and they all converge in the city center tunnel, stop a couple places in the city, and then go back out to go serve like suburbs on the other side of the city. And when you have them sort of paired like this, flowing through the city center tunnel, you get like a huge amount of capacity, but also that because there's so many trains flowing through the city center tunnel, if you stagger them, then it acts like its own like metro that lets you go through even across just the city. So if you want to go just within like that, you can see where all the lines converge in the city center. That's a huge tunnel. Which city center tunnels are really expensive, but what you get from it is worth it. And people fight about exact definitions of S-bonds a lot because it's kind of a vague term that means different things in different contexts. But it's a really powerful model, and one of the, in my opinion, one of the really good ones is the Copenhagen S-train, and it's based on this idea of like, okay, we'll literally shape the structure of the city around the rail network. This is how it's going to work, and it worked out pretty well.
Oh, okay, so that's why they're doubled. I was looking at the diagram before when you sent it, and I was like, why is there two of them? There's like one go in the one direction and the other. Oh, okay, so it's just like a capacity thing.
They're the ones going in other direction are like express services. So there's every 10 minutes is basically the minimum, but sometimes you want to have more trains more like every 5 minutes or something, and so there's different solutions on different lines. So like I think it's the red one is let me see if I don't know if I can see it. Here, I can open it up here. Yeah, so the green one is the dark green one is the B line, and then during they have an extra express service running during rush hour, which is the BX line. The A and E lines do something very goofy and kind of fun, where an A train, which is the blue one, I might be flipping the order, but the idea is that an A train is running like local service, it's running slower. The E train is running express in the north of the city, and so the E train is like going faster than the A train, and the E train is like having a lead over the A train. And then they all stop in the city center tunnel, and then when it comes to the south of the city, now they switch roles. And now the E train is running the express service, and the A train is running, now the E train is running local service, and the A train is running express. So the train will now catch back up with the A train will catch back up with the E train and make up the gap. So even though they don't have like special passing tracks and stuff, they can have an express service through this like clever system. It's a fairly unique like Copenhagen thing. I don't know of any other system that does it, but it's a fun little clever thing that they do.
Sounds like it might be a good strategy for mini metro. Should try that sometime.
It probably could be if they would let you do that. I don't know how I never played it. I don't know how detailed they will let you say like.
Yeah, you can.
I guess it could probably work.
You can skip. Stations if you need to. It lets you do that.
Yeah, that would work fine. And then the other oddball line is the ESCO F line, which is the yellow one that sort of goes like in an arc across the city, to connect all the other lines, which is kind of like completes the poem or whatever, if you want to think of the finger analogy. And fun little fact about the ESCO F line, because it's completely separated from the rest of the network, it's in the process of being automated. So Copenhagen, way back when they were building the ESCOs, decades and decades ago, they made the very, very forward-thinking decision of having the network be entirely separated from anything else, separated from the national network, separated from and there's no cross things with pedestrians or anything. And so they're now in the process of automating the entire network, which is pretty cool.
Is this automation different from ATC, automatic train control, or?
They're just fully automatic. They're going to be fully automatic trains. Essentially, the Copenhagen also has a metro, which is different from the S-bus, which the metro is already it's similar to the SkyTrain in Vancouver, or systems like that, where it's a fairly small lightweight metro system that is just there's no drivers or anything. It's just fully automated.
Okay.
It's interesting. There's already. I'm pretty sure that Esto actually today, and for a long time, has ran with only one person crews, which is not something very common in North America. Generally, we don't allow that.
Yeah, I think I've only
put that away.
I've only been on an automated train once or twice. Is the Vancouver SkyTrain automated? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, now that I think of it, all the ones I've been automated that I've been on that are automated was the SkyTrain and then the Kobe Portliner, and both of those are like, I don't know what's the word for it. It's not monorail, but it's like the overhead trains, right? Where like the tracks are built like on top of the road rather than underneath.
Just like elevated.
Yeah, yeah, elevated is the right word. I think those are the only ones I've been on that have been automated. Like, I think all the ones that are like underground or ground level I've been on still have like people driving them.
Yeah, I've been on a couple that there's a lot of, it's more common, I think, to have elevated ones. I'm not exactly sure why. The DLR in London is...
I'm thinking maybe it's
Sorry.
a safety thing, because with elevated ones, like the Kobe Portliner, for instance, like it is basically impossible to fall onto the tracks because the stations are like when the doors of the train open, it's like lined up with these glass doors. Like you cannot fall onto the tracks, and reasonably speaking, nothing else can really fall onto the tracks because they're so high up. So like maybe it might hit a bird or something like it, but like reasonably speaking, there's far fewer possibilities for safety problems compared to like something that's underground or at ground level, right? Like you don't have to worry about like street crossings or something.
Yeah. So all of the, I don't know of any automated. I think the Czech Republic is trying to run like a passenger train automated with street crossings, but other than that, like very niche example as of a week ago, which is not really a metro. I don't think there's any like metro with like pedestrian or like grade crossings or anything. The underground like automated metros that I've all seen have like in Copenhagen, and Milan also has, I think Milan, not all of the metro lines are automated, but the two that I took were. And so those also had like the platform screen doors so that nothing can ever get onto the tracks.
Well, I may give a
nice
counterexample.
It's nice for a bunch of reasons. Oh,
yeah.
No, the Vancouver SkyTrain doesn't.
Well, I was gonna say, I think at least one of the lines at the TTC in Toronto is automated, or at least has ATC, but they don't have the screen doors.
Oh, maybe it's not that. It seems like a bad idea.
Having them is definitely a good idea. I don't think it might just be that they haven't gotten around to it, or they don't have the funding or something. But I think there is ATC on line one.
They can have other things. Like I know the SkyTrain has like a bunch of sensors on the track to make sure there's nothing there. Like platform screen doors are good, not just for like automated trains and stuff, but also just for like general passenger safety. And they can help keep it like climate controlled, and you don't have all the like emissions and stuff from the train. And they help with noise. Like they help with a bunch of stuff other than just automation.
Yeah, I think it's more automation enables that. Because without automation, you can't really.
You can have platform screen doors without automation. I think they're not very common in like North America and Europe, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure it's fairly common to have not automated but platform screen door-ified metros in like Asia.
Yeah, I know most pretty much, with the exception of smaller stations, I think most of the ones in Japan had some kind of like preventing people from falling onto the tracks mechanism in place. So either the doors or there was one station I had been to that had these like ropes. It was almost like it was like these ropes next to the tracks, and when the train would come, they would like automatically lift in the air so that people could walk in through the doors, and then when the train leaves, they would go back down. So I don't know why. You're right. I haven't seen anything like that here. I don't think I've seen a single station here in Canada that has any kind of like track people falling onto the tracks prevention. Which granted, if someone's trying hard enough, they can jump it. But like in most cases, to prevent like accidents, accidents, then I don't think I've seen a station that has anything for that.
Yeah, there's actually a not good Europe thing. Platform screen doors are not that common in Europe either, but they are. You do see them around, usually part of automated. metros, because I feel like it's just like they're seen as like a modern thing. They're not often retrofitted. Well, Paris has some. I don't. I know
Yeah,
Paris
yeah.
Line 14 has them. I don't know. Yeah, so I think in France they have some, but a lot of the times it's only if it's like a newly built, modern like automated one. If it's gonna be a newly built metro line where they're gonna put the platform screen doors there, they probably want to make it automated anyway.
Yeah. The ropes are used because of rolling stock that has doors in different places or for weight reasons. I guess that makes sense. Because, like, with the doors,
Oh,
they have to
It's
really,
kind of
like,
clever.
they have to be very matchy-matchy. Like, they have to really line up. But...
Yeah, that's actually really clever
Yeah.
because like that's one of the things with trains that run on like steel wheels, right? One of the mostly Paris, some of their trains use rubber wheels, but one of the problems or things with steel wheels is since they slip a little bit more, it's harder to align the platform screen doors with like the doors on the train. And the Copenhagen Metro, they'll sometimes be like a little bit off, and you're like, oh. But over the years, we've gotten better at that to the point that there isn't really the benefit from rubber tires isn't really there anymore. A clever system for that, though.
Trying to see if there's anything else we want to touch on here. Is there anything we missed in chat?
We've
Queen.
been trying to catch up with chat. I've heard some rails use QR codes or something to align the gates by scanning. That's a good idea. I don't know if I've seen that, but I also don't know, like, there could be a system there. You can't see the QR codes, or I didn't see any cameras or anything, so. No, that seems like it would work. Just like, yeah, I guess if it's enclosed, you wouldn't have to worry about like rain or that much dust or anything.
Well, there was one going off, stepping off of the train topic here. I did say earlier that we would get to the the one more lane trust comments.
Yeah, we can go talk about one more lane.
One more lane, one more lane, one more
One more lane. Promise, everything will be fixed if we just had one more lane.
So the science behind this is there have been studies. I think the year that not just Spice quoted was something like 1930s, where we have studies that show that despite people claiming that adding more lanes to a highway will reduce traffic, which you'll see in some of the press releases for these kinds of things, they actually don't, because while something like to take another example from not just Spice here, water, if you widen the diameter of a pipe, for example, so in this case widening the lane, you will get better flow because that's how physics works. But people in cars are not like water, and they are free to choose where they go. And so there's this thing called induced demand, where if you build the infrastructure, people will consider wanting to use it. So if you build another lane, eventually people will flock to it, and you'll actually get worse traffic than when you had started.
Yeah, and the I guess counter thing is that it works with like public transit too, right? If there's a train, you build a new train that's faster, then people will take it.
Yeah, and the reverse works too. And this kind of touches on the canal thing from earlier, but if you take away lanes, that also has the potential to reduce traffic as well, because people are less likely to use it and travel elsewhere, use other roads.
Yeah, and it also taking away lanes is generally benefits the area like around it too. If there's not 5 lanes of car traffic or whatever.
Yeah.
It's generally a very helpful thing to be removing lanes, especially in like when you have like these big boulevards and stuff. You can put all kinds of stuff in the middle.
Yeah, removing lanes, transforming them to things, something else like bike lanes or even just green space.
Yeah, one of the sort of like strategies that's worked quite well for this is Rotterdam. Rotterdam in the Netherlands, it was like built up. It was like destroyed during the war, and so it was built up in like car culture. And they had these huge boulevards with a bajillion lanes, and they would put bike paths along the side of some of them. But what they would also do is like leave only like one lane of travel on each, like one lane of like northbound travel on one side and one lane of southbound travel on the other side or whatever. And then the entire middle strip they would turn into like grassy tram tracks where you have like it's just all grassed over, and then there's except for rails for the trams to go. And they're so much pretty and nice. And now the trams can go fast to get places, and the shops and whatever's around them are not surrounded by a bajillion lanes of car traffic. And traffic goes down because of induced demand.
Yeah, speaking of trams and grassy tram tracks, it's I obviously haven't seen this in person, but it always surprises me how the trams can just go through people or through pedestrianized areas with people going.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So it would seem like it'd be a safety thing, but apparently not.
The thing is, they just go. There's two things. Like because I've walked through. I've been around places like this like a lot, and it works really well. The first thing is the trams just go kind of slow, which is fair. And the other thing is because there's like rails, you know exactly where the tram is going to go. Because it's just going there. You don't have to think about like what if it like suddenly goes somewhere you're expecting it not. If you were to drive like a bus through a pedestrianized area, even if there were you were to draw a little marking on the road or on the ground or whatever, that just wouldn't work that well. So because the tram's on a rail, it cannot just, unless you have a really bad tram where it's going to derail, it cannot just go somewhere else. You know exactly where it's going to go. They're going pretty slowly. It works really well, and it's a super nice experience because you can have public transit access to the tram away from the road. You don't even need to go near the car. It's a great thing. There's a couple of places that I've been to that do that really well. There's some in places like the Netherlands. A really good one that I haven't heard people talking about is walkable in Oslo in Norway. So that's like the pedestrian area by the harbor. And the trams sort of do this like U-turn thing where they go out, they get redirected out into the area. It's a really busy tram stop. There's a lot of trams there, but it works really well. And that's kind of a case where it's like off to the side. Sometimes they run them like straight through directly through a pedestrian square, which seems a little sillier, but it works. Probably the classic example of that is Berlin, where Alexanderplatz, the trams go just straight through the middle of the pedestrian square. And it's great.
Asian here says, please, just another highway. And unfortunately, Ontario is building another one. I think it's Highway 413.
Yeah, the U.S. is building a bunch of them too. We're currently building.
Was that the one? I'm trying to remember because I think I did a project. I had to write a report for some class or another, and I remember it was the one where they did some not tests, but they did some they did something, and they determined that the amount of time that this new highway would save people was 30 seconds or something. It was a very marginal benefit for what it was.
Yeah, that's probably it.
No, but one more lane. We just need to add one more lane, and then it will save people loads of time.
It's not even one more lane; it's an entire highway.
No, I mean we need to add one more lane to the highway.
To the highway, yeah. Hours are made of seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. In the U.S. we have. I mean, we're building a lot of highways, but the most sort of infamous one is the I-69. Not nice is a massive highway project that's being built that we don't need. We already have plenty of highways to go between places, but the thing is the distance it covers is not that dissimilar from the California high-speed rail project, and we're spending a lot more money even up front on Interstate 69 on building a highway that we definitely don't need than on California high-speed rail, which we definitely do need.
That's not the one with the very wide highway, is it?
I don't think so. This is like a whole new highway. I think I know what you're talking about. The one where it's like existing highway that's like a bajillion lanes wide.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been on roads here where I think it's something like 4 lanes in one direction. So I guess it's 8 lanes in total, and it actually might be 3 lanes or something like that. Something quite wide, and you have 2 of those intersecting. And it just feels very wrong to be crossing that kind of street. I mean, granted, it's not a highway, but it's a very wide crossing. And it feels a little bit unsafe.
Was that like a rural area or?
No, it's in the city.
See, now you get hit with the other thing, which is the fact that like the roads through the city are almost always limited by intersection capacity rather than lane capacity. So if you have like, it's usually more than 1 lane, where unless it's like a turning lane or something, all the other lanes other than the first one are basically doing nothing.
Yeah, let me see. I mean, obviously I can't show it on stream, but let me see if I can.
This. We can talk about the roads right next to us.
Yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lanes across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 9 cross 10.
It's like a crossing of.
I will send it to you over in Discord, and you can react to it. This one. This is awful.
Oh, it does look like, yeah, it is. They actually went and built that.
Yep.
And they have like 4 billion lines in the middle of the intersection to try to show people like where they're supposed to stay to get on the right lane in the end.
But hey, at least there are bike lanes in the crossing area, right?
Actually, those look like the intersection are protected. So that's actually, I mean,
yeah. I mean,
it would be nice if the road was. The bike lane design is actually pretty good, even if everything else is dubious to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, yeah, the bike infrastructure there is actually separated from the road, so it does have that going for it.
That's really good. Do you have like how do you say it, like sidewalk level bike lanes?
Some places.
Or is it like the?
So what?
Nice.
Yeah, because a lot of the lanes are. So you'll have a few different types here. So one, you'll either have the bicycle gutter that's just painted, it's along the road. Sometimes that'll be separated by like half a lane, but other times you'll have like what you see in this one where it's I think they call it a multi-use lane here, where it's both for pedestrian traffic and for bike traffic. So you'll never see just for bikes, I think. They'll always be open for both pedestrians and cyclists.
Yeah, the best model that I've seen is, it was like this in most of there. I don't know if I can say, like, it wasn't like the whole city center or anything, but there was like a substantial network in the city center where the city I was in Germany, the mysterious city where I was in Germany, where the way they did it was like they have it's similar to the Netherlands, where you have like it's just a really wide sidewalk, and then the side of the side it's cut in half, and like the half of the sidewalk, the sidewalk side on the road side is for bike, and then the other side is pedestrian. So there's not any kind of like barrier or anything. It's like different colored asphalt or whatever. And I feel like that's kind of like the optimal way to do it, because you still have them like separated from, you still have the bikes separated from cars. Bikes and pedestrians are a lot more compatible than cars and pedestrians. And it's also nice because like as long as the sidewalk's not like insanely crowded, if there's like you have to like swerve out of the way or someone's trying to pass you on the bike lane or whatever, like you can just dip into the sidewalk for a little bit. It's fine. It's nice to have that like little extra room because it just makes it feel less like a bike lane can feel kind of like constrained when it's just like a little thing on the side of the road, even if it's protected. Even if it's like, you know, this wide sidewalk where only half of it is technically designated for bikes, it just makes it feel nicer and wider and more open.
Yeah, I think we kind of have that here, although it's a sidewalk and then there's a little strip of different concrete or whatever on one of the sides next to the road. But I have a feeling it's not actually meant for bikes necessarily, and it's there as a as some sort of required padding between the sidewalk and the road. So I feel like you see that more on the streets with higher speed limits. So I suspect it probably has something to do with that.
Yeah, it was pretty universal, or like not universal, but it wasn't like that dependent on the type of road. More often than not, there was probably one of those. It was only like either you were taking. It was really nice. Like honestly, you were either, it was like 90% of the time you were either in like a mixed use like walking cycling path just in the park or whatever, or like, you know, just through trees, or you were on one of the sidewalk level bike lanes.
I have not cycled in a while. I have nothing to add to this conversation.
We should go back to talking about how great trams are.
By all means.
I don't know, actually. I don't know. Have you guys taken trams? I know Toronto has the streetcar.
Streetcar!
Yeah. Whenever I go...
Yeah, I haven't been to anywhere, I think, outside of Toronto that's had streetcars. I know some cities in Japan have them, but I did not go to any of them.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I have any experience other than Toronto. Possibly not. Although, as you probably know, streetcars in Toronto do get stuck in traffic, unfortunately.
They're not just bikes video.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was not just bikes video. I had the streetcars like do everything wrong. I think that was like his phrasing or something. It was like the streetcars in Toronto have managed to do basically everything possibly wrong that they could.
I don't really have a point of reference for first-hand experience though, so I mean it works to a degree. At least we have them.
Yeah, it's definitely good to have them. And I think for me it was Oslo. That was the first like city I went to that had like a, you know, real like proper tram network, and it was like it was so nice. They have the trams running through pedestrianized areas. Because the thing is, in the sort of in areas that aren't that like dense or whatever, they're just going by some apartment buildings. It's not like the city center. Then they just run in the street or whatever. But when you get to the city center, they have, usually instead of running in like their own lane to the side of traffic or something, they're in like some kind of median, lots of like the grassy tram track median things that you have in Rotterdam. They kind of have a smaller version of that in Oslo. And they're really nice, but they also do something which is like one of the like secret superpowers of trams, is when you have a bus, or you have like a bus lane or something, and there's no bus there, it's like just a road. And if you have, it's just like a lane of a road. And if you have a tram and there's no tram there, like people are much more willing to just like go walk over it or whatever. You can have it like concreted over. It's a similar thing to why you can run them through pedestrianized squares. Because when you have a bus lane but there's no bus, it's a lane of traffic, it's still a road. When you have a tram lane and there's no tram, you know, if you want it to be, it can just disappear. And so there's two sort of like big pedestrianized squares in the city center of Oslo. And in between them, there's a little road going through them. And what it used to be before trams solve world hunger and everything, is it was like this really big like 4-lane, not 4-lane, 6-lane. It was if you include both directions, it was like a 6-lane road running through the middle, and then on one side you had nice pedestrian square outside the train station, and on the other side you had nice pedestrianized square where like the new library is and stuff. But when they added, what they did with the trams is that they're like, okay, we'll turn one lane into a bike lane. That's nice. So that lane is like, it's gonna can have a similar effect. But it's like, okay, the bike lane doesn't really act like a lane of traffic anymore. There's a bus lane, and then in the middle, was it 8 lanes? I can't count. It was a bunch of lanes beforehand, needless to say. But what happened, because the tram median basically acts like a part of the pedestrianized area, it doesn't act like road anymore. It went from having like two pedestrian squares separated by 6 to 8 lanes of traffic or whatever, to being like, it feels like one continuous space that just happens to have like little roads where there's like 1 lane of traffic and sometimes some buses in the middle. And so it like totally made it feel like this one huge area rather than 2 distinct areas, and it's really nice.
That sounds pretty nice, because one of the things that I have heard about, one of the downsides I've heard about roads is that it splits communities because you have the road down the middle.
I can send a satellite view. That library. I know this isn't related to. I guess we can relate it to urbanism. The new like public library they built in Oslo is so nice. It's like an insanely nice building, and there's like, you can look out on the water. It feels almost like a giant mall or something, but it's just like a community center and stuff. And there aren't like, they can't even fit that many books in it. It doesn't have that many books. It's terrible as a library in the sense of like how many books can you fit in it. But it's there's loads of people like meeting up there, and it's a really nice like community space.
I mean, it is still fairly related, because ultimately, right, a city is there to serve the people that are in it, right? And part of urbanism is how do you build things in a way that serves the people best in terms of how they congregate, where they need to go, things like that. So definitely, libraries and spaces like libraries where they're actually nice are definitely important. Yeah. Piping on here. Yeah, I live near a highway and it's annoying for that reason. Yeah, in my area, for the streets that are crossing over highways, you basically, there's no pedestrian or cycling infrastructure over them. So there are very few spots where you can cross the highway as a pedestrian or a cyclist, and it feeling safe to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when I'm in the American suburbs or whatever, and I have to cross like a few lane wall, you feel like it feels so small.
Yeah, I think also too, like, even for cars, like one thing I've noticed is that, there's been a few times recently where I've been driving in the car with somebody and they had like a GPS program on, but it's one of the ones that tells you when there's a speed camera coming up. And I've been noticing just like how many speed cameras there are, specifically in places that are just coming off the highway, because they really have to like get people's brains out of highway mode. Otherwise, the roads that are like, the normal streets then become less safe because people, again, are still in highway brain and they're just like coming right off. So they have to keep having these traffic cameras there so that people make sure to like slow down when they're exiting.
Yeah, they're actually
people go like crazy fast.
Yeah. Like even police cars on the highway speed over the limit.
But then again, maybe my area is not the standard, because I remember also recently being in the car and being like, why is there so many red light cameras in this area? And then like immediately seeing somebody just go straight through a red. So I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm just in an area that just has like notably worse drivers or something, but
like who would ever do that? Pew!
Yeah, there are ways of getting people to slow down is partially also the road design, because you can make if you if a road feels wide, then people will tend to go faster on it. If you make the road feel narrow, especially if there are physical things there that make it narrow, people will go slower. And that's why it's good to have, if you want a slow speed, to have, say, trees along the side, because it makes the space feel narrower.
Yeah, and there's other tricks people can pull too, of like having chicanes or making the road not like perfectly straight.
Yeah.
Wider.
Wider. More lanes.
Wider.
I sent a picture from Google Maps of the area I was talking about in Oslo too.
Is that something you want me to show on stream?
How convenient it is. Yeah.
Okay, let me pull that up then. I think it's hard for me to
Anyone
visualize
themselves
that.
can just find it on Oslo.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit hard for me to visualize that because the photo is so focused on the road, which
Yeah.
understandably, because the car taking the shot was on the road. But...
Yeah, I'm looking at
Yeah,
like,
it's
the
hard,
width
like,
of the
the-
lanes, and I'm like, this has to be narrower than the way it looks in the picture, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's weird. I wish I had like an overhead view, but the problem is the overhead view was taken where like this entire area is completely in shadow and impossible to see anything.
Oh.
So the is literally like the wrong time of day.
Yeah, so there's a shot there. But I do see what you're saying, where you have the grassy middle part and then the road.
Yeah, so I can like guide you through this, not the correct picture to use for here, but so is what we got. So on the like off the screen, off to the left is like the pedestrian square near the water, and then this whole area, used to be a giant road, and then there's the area with the tram tracks and stuff in the middle, and then the big like pedestrian square in front of the train station is off on the right side. And so beforehand, this was like, you had big square, gigantic road separating them, other completely separate big square. But now there's it looks like there's 3 lanes of traffic, and I know it looks like they're wide, but they're really not that wide. The red one is a bike lane, the middle one is a bus only lane, and then the other one is a car lane. There's not that many cars that go through them anyway, and the lights are really quick too. So it's much easier to walk across them, and it feels like one contiguous space that happens to have some roads going through it, rather than you can imagine this before was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lanes.
Yeah. And it's probably they can have faster lights because it doesn't take as long for people to cross the section where the cars actually are, right?
Yeah, it's very common to have it in Europe, where they'll have some kind of pedestrian island in the middle, in between the two directions of traffic, and you can kind of see they have lights on either side. So if traffic clears one of the directions first, they'll let people cross to the middle even before it's valid for them to cross to the finish their crossing. So first the light turns so you can start crossing towards the middle, and then 2 seconds later it'll turn so you can finish your crossing there. It's not something I've seen very often in North America.
Yeah, I kind of wish we had staged crossings here, because literally, for example, when you have a left turn light on both sides, pedestrians should be able to cross the area that the cars aren't using, or the cars should just be allowed to. I mean, they already are allowed to turn right on opposing sides. Maybe that's why they don't.
Yeah.
I mean, they probably don't because it's more expensive to build stage crossings, but
it's probably at least partly that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've seen exactly one instance around here where the traffic lights are at least a little bit smart about how they route traffic. Because I hear through the Not Just Bikes videos, the street lights over in one of the places he filmed actually knows how to direct traffic in ways that are smart, and so that, say, people aren't waiting for I don't know, a pedestrian that's not actually there, for example, or for cars that are
Yeah.
going a certain way when you don't need them to be.
Yeah, as far as I know, that's mostly a Netherlands thing. I've seen maybe one or two lights that are like smart like that in Germany and other places. Apparently not in Italy.
Yeah, I mean, definitely from a.
It's a really.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying it's a nice system. I didn't Discord delay.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely easier to program it in the more consistent way, but it is, as with a lot of things, nice things come with effort.
Yeah. I remember seeing the comments too, where it was on that video, where it was like everyone was like, just like that damn traffic light. It's like smarter than the entire U.S. Department of Transportation.
I mean, I guess, I don't know, as a pedestrian, I feel like my other quarrel is sometimes, is it right turn on red that people hate? Because, like, I do not care for when the little man is on the sign, on the light for the pedestrians, and yet I'm on the crosswalk and cars are turning into it. I do not care for that.
Yeah.
I don't think
I
that's
don't
a
remember
universal
whether
thing
it's
everywhere.
right or left. It's bad.
I do not care for it. I have almost died
Yeah,
in too many
this should not be a
crosswalks
thing.
of people doing exactly that, of just like, I'm crossing at a normal speed, and I don't know, I feel like that's also just been like a situation of like, I've had people honk at me when I'm crossing on the correct light. Like, it'd be one thing if I was like jaywalking and somebody was like honking at me to get out of the way, but I'm just like, I am like almost at the end of this. I am moving at a faster pace than normal. Like,
Sheesh.
go away. But that's not a traffic problem. That's just like a people being rude problem. Like I said, I like to complain.
Well, yeah. You would like Germany. Everyone's always complaining now. No, there was actually a really good not just bikes video.
So just bikes?
Although it was like a just bikes video. No, it was from the channel We're in Hell. Actually, no, everything comes back to Not Just Bikes. It was a collab with Not Just Bikes. all roads lead to Not Just Bikes. All bike paths lead to Not Just Bikes. All transit lanes lead to Not Just Bikes. But it was about like the idea of like when you're sitting in a car driving, you're in a very like different state of mind, and like all the stuff outside of the car just feels like obstacles, and sort of like the psychology of that. It was really interesting because there is definitely a sense of like people turn into assholes when they get in the car.
I feel like I've even experienced that, because like even as a kid, I don't remember my parents swearing a lot outside of when they were driving.
Yeah.
Or even like, not even swearing, but just like insulting, like throwing out insults. I feel like I would not see them doing, I don't remember hearing them doing it that much outside of when they were in a car. And I guess part of it is that the other driver can't hear you. Like, sometimes I wonder what would happen if like everyone on the road had like a loudspeaker on their car that was like, blaring out what they were saying to the cars around them. But yeah, I feel like I've definitely experienced that, of just like, I guess it's just the separation from other people and from other places, where it's like suddenly people are just allow themselves to just get a little angrier.
Yeah, definitely. I remember hearing the take that like a horn, your like car horn, should be as loud on the inside of the car as it is on the outside of the car.
Yeah.
I feel like that's that would change behavior.
Yeah, I've definitely encountered drivers who would honk the horn as soon as the light goes green.
Yeah, it's like, at least give the guy in front of you like time to like put his foot down on the gas pedal, like.
Yeah, like you can have like at least a second.
Faye here, but to be fair, some people cross the street when it's red at full speed.
I just said that I cross normally. I don't even jaywalk. People still get mad at me.
I have sometimes crossed the street when it's red. But usually, I've done that a lot, like at our university. There's sort of this like path you can go, where every like single block they have like a side street between like these two like sort of bigger roads. There's like the bigger roads are going in one direction, and this is like the center of the university. They have like these tiny little side streets that go between the two major roads, and there's like so many of them, and no one ever takes them. They don't need to be there. Like you can just wait until you go to the other side, or just go like if you're trying to get somewhere there, you can just park your car in one and then walk like half a block to the other side. But there's so many of them, especially when people are like biking or stuff. People will go right through them because there's like almost never anyone taking them. All they do is just like add stoplights and slow things down, which is another interesting like Europe versus the US comparison, or versus I guess North America more generally. There's generally a lot less like signalized intersections where they have stoplights and stuff. And what you'll see a lot in Europe is if there is a side street or something like that, they'll have little like, it's a road symbol. It's not very very rare in North America, where it's a bunch of like 5 little like white triangles painted on the road that are like pointing towards you. And if the triangles point towards you, it means you yield to whatever traffic is there. It's just like such a simple thing, but it's really rare, at least in the parts of North America that I've been.
Yeah, I mean we have yield signs here too. I don't think we use the triangles.
Yeah, it's different than the yield. It's different than the sign.
Different how?
It's like it's different like physically because it's painted on the road, but it also like specifically indicates like this is a side street or whatever. And it's usually, the thing is, it's placed like a little bit before like the sidewalk or whatever, wherever people would cross. So the idea is you stop there before you get to like the actual intersection itself. So you stop there, make sure no pedestrians or bikers or whatever are crossing. Then you only like after you stop there and yield, then first you yield to like pedestrians and bikers or whatever, and then you yield to the actual main traffic on the main road or whatever. But the place that's like marked out, that's why it's marked out on the road, is just like here's where you stop to yield for people, is before any like sidewalks or anything like that, because you're not really yielding to the intersection. It's like yield here.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I think
I've seen one of them.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I've seen one of them in the U.S. and it was accompanied with a very awkward sign that like it was like 10-word sign that like explained what it meant.
Yeah, nobody's reading that.
Yeah, I hope people can get a good look at it as they're driving past.
Yeah.
No,
I don't know how effective that one was.
Yeah. I have started seeing the white triangles here, though. I think they're a little bit different than what they have in Europe, but I think it serves a similar purpose. But yeah,
like I feel like the most important thing is. Sorry.
I think we should go with yours because I'm gonna tangent a little bit off that.
So I was just saying, like, I feel like the most important thing is not like it's not the semantics of like, oh, here's exactly like what this means. It's more like, this is a side street. Give preference to anyone going past.
Yeah.
Like it's more the general meaning that I feel like matters.
Okay, going back to the signaled intersections. For us, even stop signs. As a cyclist, I find stop signs very annoying. I wish we had more yield signs. Yeah, it's because
yeah.
As a pedestrian, I do not trust people to follow any signs. I only trust lights.
Yeah. Like how many people follow the stop sign? Less than they should.
Yeah. For cycling specifically, it is because the more we get the more we get stopped, the slower we become, and the more time we end up spending in the intersection. So as a human-powered vehicle, that also means more energy spent actually accelerating back to where I was before. But also, it means that I'm in the intersection for longer, and that has ramifications for me and the other vehicles around me too. There's this thing called I think it was the Idaho stop, where you can treat a stop sign, if you're a cyclist, you can treat a stop sign as a yield sign.
Huh.
Would be nice if we had that here.
Oh, is it just, so it's just like a local regulation thing where they do it in, I don't know, Idaho, I guess.
I think it's spread to more than just Idaho, but I think it might have originated there. So yeah,
but then you have to know.
Well, no, I think it's legislated, so it's actually a thing.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean,
like does whatever state I happen to be in, which I'm not disclosing to it, I have no idea.
But yeah, I think in full it's you treat stop signs as yield signs, and then you can treat stop lights as stop signs. That second part is that one to me feels a little bit more iffy, but I think the motivation there is sometimes the automated system won't pick up that you're there because you're too small, and so if you're waiting there for a long time, then you can just go. Although in those cases, I would often just, if there's a pedestrian crossing light, I would just push the button.
Yeah, I've seen some, there have been some I've seen in North America where they have the push button thingy specifically for cyclists, which is nice because then they can manage the traffic signal separately.
Yeah, those are starting to crop up too, but I feel like they treat those too much like pedestrian crossings. They haven't quite fully properly treated cyclists as their own thing. Because why should I have to wait? So for example, I think there was one intersection I was going through where the pedestrian and the bike lights were red, or rather it counted down to red, but the cars were still going and they still had a green light.
Oh, well, that's not good.
And it's fairly common, I think, to have something like that for the larger streets, the larger roads, rather.
Huh. Maybe I've just gotten lucky because I don't think I've seen that. Huh. That seems bad. But I guess it's on the other hand, it's it's not it doesn't seem like a great idea, but when you have 4 bajillion stoplights everywhere. Oh, someone in chat says roundabouts.
Ooh,
That's true. The spooky roundabout.
spooky.
I think they've actually started reducing roundabouts in Britain, from what I've heard.
And where?
In the UK.
Oh, I have no idea. I've been looking away from the UK.
Yeah, I can't remember what alternative they've gone with, but I think they've started reducing the roundabouts for something simpler. Because people do sometimes find it confusing.
Yeah, I know roundabouts, and from what I know, roundabouts are in general pretty good. I know having cycling roundabouts can be kind of complicated with cycling, but they've become very common. They've been pretty common in Europe for a while, and what you often see actually, which I don't know, I just think looks kind of pretty, is they'll have, in places with trams, they'll have the roundabout and whatever for cars where they go around, but then the tram will cut through the center of the roundabout.
Oh, that's fun. On the topic of pedestrian lights, I'm reminded of something I said in your servers using Xenotime. I feel a little bit smug whenever I can just push a button to stop all traffic.
Feels so powerful.
Very powerful.
Yeah. And it is like you have the what am I saying? I can't talk. I have the no. I okay. Dab on the driver. Yeah. That's what you have to do. You have to dab on the driver and push the button on the street light like as you're dabbing. Like you do the dab and then your arm goes and pushes the street light button.
Okay. I think we're starting to slow down. Does anyone else have anything they want to bring up?
I mean, we could, unless there's anything specific people want to talk about.
Yeah, anyone chat if you have any topics you want us to discuss. Now's your last chance.
Yeah. Chat suggested topics are very much welcome.
Topics or questions.
Any complaints?
Or complaints.
Yes.
I love complaining. I love whining about things I don't fix.
I'm telling you, it's Germany. Check it out.
How do you rate transport in your local area from 1 to 10? I don't know, maybe like a 6 and 6.5. Like, it's serviceable. It's not great, but it will get you to where you need to go most of the time. And it's far more reliable than I've in other Canadian cities that I've been to. So yeah, probably like 6 out of 6.5. The people who complain about
That's
it have
good.
very clearly not
Reliability.
lived in a second city. They've very clearly not lived anywhere else in Canada.
Yeah, I think for me...
Want to go next one?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I said.
Oh, go. Can I go next? Okay, yeah, I'll go next. Yeah, I think for me, it's hard to say because there are definitely things that could be better, but also apparently, compared to other places in the area, we're actually probably one of the better ones. So yeah, I think 6.57 ish is probably correct. I'd probably
I feel
go
like
with that.
like the protected bike lanes and stuff you talked about, like that feels like a good indicator.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely nice things about it. Well, like the general large area. there are certain places that are worse for it than others, but
yeah, and you also always have like the different sort of scales where like there's the big scale of like the structure of the city and stuff that's really hard to change, and then you get to the smaller scales and some of that stuff easier to change. It's hard to say like specifically. For my local area, I'm gonna have to give 2, aren't I? On the North American scale of rating your transport from 1 to 10, it would probably be like a 9 or like a 9.5 or something. Maybe we'll say a 9 because there's no like rail transit, but for compared to other North American cities of a similar size, it's pretty good, and the transit it's generally pretty reliable. Although they run the buses way less often on weekends, which is just annoying. And it's like people still want to go places on the weekends. But on the I don't know if you count comparing it to like European countries and I guess also the UK too, now that they're not a part of Europe anymore. Yay, Brexit. I would have to say like 5 or something, about 4 or 5. It's hard to see when there are like cities that I've been to in Europe that are like the same population, also like university towns that are just like extremely similar to the city I live in, and they have like a bazillion tram lines and also like actual train service. So it's definitely not bad, and by North American standards, it's pretty good. But it is a little hard when you've seen the light. but I'm definitely lucky.
Okay, we got another.
All right, we have
comment that says,
another question.
Trucks need to stop getting bigger. True.
Yes, they do.
This is
I
true.
don't have anything else to add to that statement. True.
True. Also, I mean, part of that too is that trucks. I think there's some statistic where, like, I'm gonna get the exact numbers wrong, but trucks are like, like a couple percent of like the traffic on the road, but they cause like a huge amount, like I think more than the majority of the like damage to roads because they're so heavy. They're so big and so heavy. So when it comes to like one of the really, really expensive parts of roads is like road maintenance and stuff. And giant trucks are, that are really heavy wear down the road really, really, really fast. They could just change the regulations and fix it pretty quickly. Yeah. And also rail freight.
Yeah, I mean, you can say it's very easy to say fix the regulations, but I think the harder part
like,
is
will they?
The harder part is finding people who would push for that.
Right.
Well, I think it's also just, to me, it's weird of just like the consistent car inflation in terms of like size of a vehicle. Because I definitely remember like when I was a kid, my mom, and maybe it was just the cars that my mom learned to drive with, but my mom would complain when she had to drive a car that was too big. Like, she didn't like driving minivans, she didn't like driving like SUVs, she preferred to drive like smaller cars. Like, every time she had to drive the van, she would just call it the boat. Because she's like, yeah, this feels like I'm trying to park like a cruise ship. So yeah, the fact that like most cars are now, like the standards of what counts as like a big car seems to just be consistently growing, and I'm like, how did that happen?
Well,
I love small cars, but a lot of manufacturers don't even make cars anymore. Yeah, it's been this is something not just Bikes has also talked about. But yeah, it's crazy. There's been a huge increase in the size of cars, and it's not just like annoying for driving them. A big heavy car is, by the laws of physics, yay physics, shout out physics, way more dangerous in terms of like you have less stopping distance. If you don't stop and hit something, you're gonna slam way more energy into them. It's harder to see from like a big, if you're really high up because you have a giant car. It's just bad. It's just crazy, and it's just market pressure.
I think like, also the other thing with tall cars, like with big cars that are tall, is I think this is like another case of people forgetting that they will eventually be old. Because, again, I experienced this as someone, like, I am 5'2",
so right.
And there's been times where I've gotten Ubers that are like, these really tall SUVs. And I am like, were I in worse shape, I would have trouble getting into this vehicle. Like, I think even my grandparents at some point had a car that they had to get rid of because it was getting to become, like, it was too difficult for them to get into the car because it was so high up off the ground. So it's one of those things where I'm like, I know some of them have this, like, little step, which in my experience doesn't work because if it's wet, then it is, you will die. But it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't think I would ever want a tall car because I would not be able to like get into it without having to like pull myself up.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever had the experience of like the car that we have is like a SUV, but it's an older, like fairly compact one. The car that we have, the car that my family has, it definitely seems like a problem though. Like, why?
Like, again, maybe people taller than me don't think about this, but like when you're old and have bad knees, eventually, like that's gonna become a problem for everybody at some point if you live to a certain age. Like,
yeah, for sure. I like the nimble go-kart feel. Yeah, like the big car is so much less like control. A la cruise ship. Although at least a cruise ship is like smooth.
Yeah. No, I think my mom, when I was a kid, my mom would say that her dream car would be like a lime green Fiat. Like, just like the little guys. That was like, my mom
awesome.
would say that, like, that would be her dream car. I don't know if it's still her dream car, but like at the time, she's like, yeah, if I had to pick any car, that's what I would want.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm
What
reminded
would
of
my
a
dream car be?
yeah, I think it was in middle school where we had a writing prompt to at the start of every I don't know, at the start of every English class or something, where we just write an answer to a prompt that the teacher gave us every day, and one of the prompts was "What's your dream car?" And I had no answer to that because I didn't care for cars. But I guess it kind of
Yeah.
highlights the culture here.
Yeah.
Well, also, like, you're a kid. Like, the cars
Yeah,
you're
like,
probably
when are
most
you
familiar with are just like
car?
whatever your parents drive, right? Like,
Yeah.
I feel
I'm
like I would have, if I had to answer that as a kid, I would have been like, I want one with a DVD player in it.
Yeah, we had a friend. We had like a family friend who had a like DVD player built into their car. It was crazy.
I don't know if I've ever been in a car like that. I mean, I think the closest I've been with something like that was a coach, and they had a movie going on, so they probably had something like that, but not for a regular car.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
had
think
a
they did like an
car.
add-on.
Yeah, when I was a kid, it was a used car, so I think it's just that my parents were getting this car anyway, and it happened to have one. But my family did have one with like a built-in DVD player for the passenger, like for the back seats. Obviously, like it wasn't for the front, but yeah, me and my sister, we would use it on road trips to watch movies and stuff. And I remember, like, before that, my parents had like a portable DVD player that we would just use, but like it was exciting because it's like built into the car as part of the car. Like the screen is above you instead of like in front of you.
It's cool.
Yeah.
See, I feel like my favorite car would be like a really big one, but instead of riding on rubber tires, it is steel wheels, and it's level boarding, and you can go with a bunch of other people on it.
Very good.
That's how I would answer that question.
Mr. E here, they made regulations on farm trucks less, so they made everything a farm truck. Yeah, I was gonna mention that. The reason why SUVs are so popular now and why they're like cars are getting bigger is because SUVs are technically classified as light trucks and not cars. And their light trucks are regulated less than cars. I think in part because of the auto industry lobbying for that. And so now,
Yeah, there was a lot of lobbying.
yeah, so now everything's a truck. And on top of that, with the pickup trucks, they actually have less usable capacity than they used to, because people don't tow or don't carry things in their pickup trucks. They're more status symbols.
Yeah, like it's just to be like, look at me, I have my big manly cool truck. Like how often are you actually carrying lumber, whatever in it?
Yeah. I think it was to help farmers out in some way too. I mean, I wouldn't discount the possibility of that happening, but you know, with
Yeah, I
every
think that's
with every change, there's always somebody who's going to try to exploit it.
yeah, like I think that's what was happening with the light truck thing. If they wanted to be like, okay, people using vehicles for like small trucks for like work and like construction type stuff, they don't need to be subject to like all these stringent like emissions regulations, stringent by U.S. standards emissions regulations. And so they're like, well, we'll make this thing called light trucks, and then all the auto manufacturers were like, let's make everything a light truck. I don't know the exact history of the legislative stuff.
But I think Not Just Bikes has a video on it.
The special guest next stream. We do a second one of these podcasts. We'll get.
We'll just add one person every single time until it's like a round table of like 10 people.
Yeah, we'll keep adding people until we add Not Just Bikes.
Work our way up.
Exactly. They'll have every single urbanist or like every single VTuber, every single VTuber who has some interest in urbanism and public transit will be on this.
Hey, you know, the power of asking, you never know.
You do. I actually got like totally sunlocked when I was in Amsterdam. I was staying in Utrecht, but everything in like it was Monday and everything in Utrecht was closed except the like 3 things to do in Utrecht that weren't closed on Monday were the things I had already done over the weekend. So I'm like, okay, you know, this is the Netherlands. The trains between cities in the region run like every 5 minutes, right? So I go walk up to the station, turn off, next train leaves in a minute. I go walk down, and I take the 30-minute train or whatever to Amsterdam to go to the Rijksmuseum, it was really cool. If you're ever in Amsterdam, go to the Rijksmuseum. But I'm like there, and I look around, and I see someone, like I'm in Amsterdam, I see someone who looks almost exactly like Not Just Bike. I'm like, what? Oh wait, no, it's just some random person.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you ask him?
No, I figured it out fast enough before I bothered some random Dutch person. The country famous for like being quiet and non-confrontational.
Yeah, speaking of taking trains, I have considered just taking the train to the end of the line just for the sake of it. I've taken.
Oh yeah, I've done that.
I've done that on the subways, I think, or at least I traced out the old. Do they call it interlined routes? Because the Toronto subway, they actually used to have 2 trains running on one line at one point, and then they stopped doing that because it got confusing. But it was actually pretty interesting because you can get to, I think you can get from any station to any other station, with the way they networked it with just one train.
Oh, huh.
But for various reasons,
actually, the Amsterdam metro is kind of like that.
I know there's a in Mini Metro, the transit game, I think the recommendation is you want to try to get from any one station to any other station with at most 1 transfer. And I mean that's the way I like to take buses too. If I need to transfer more than twice, it's kind of an iffy bus ride. Maybe it's maybe a little bit too far, but 1 transfer I'm okay with.
Yeah, I feel like it's very like mode dependent. Where like transferring on buses is generally not very fun. Transferring on metros, especially when they come, frequently, is generally a lot nicer of an experience. Especially if you have a cross-platform transfer or something, where like, your train arrives on one side of the platform and the train you're getting on is on the other side of the platform. There's some really nice examples of that. Actually, in Amsterdam, they do that with the mainline trains and the metro. So if you're transferring at like Amsterdam Zuid or something from the mainline NS trains to the metro runs on one side of the platform and the mainline trains are on the other side. So you just walk across the platform and now you're on the metro, and they even time it. So the metro is aligned with it. It's a very nice experience where you're like, time to transfer to the metro. It's right there. Just walk across and you're on your way to the pipe or whatever.
That of course requires things being on time.
Yeah, which some places are better at than others. In Germany. Sorry.
Are the things in Germany actually late, or is this a thing
no,
like you said that German people like to complain about things? So we all know when things are late.
They do like to complain about things, and yes, the trains are always late or canceled. It's like the regional and intercity trains are always late, and the ICE trains are like half the time they're canceled. It's bad. They basically just like, I mean, it's mostly a result of just like defunding and not doing maintenance. and now like all of the tracks like they need to constantly do maintenance on. There was one train I was taking in Germany where it was like a regional train, and we got all the way to the last stop right before where I was getting off. And like earlier in the day or whatever, I got like a notification that was like, you know, the train might be delayed because of like they're working on the like catenary lines, the overhead lines. Here, can I point at it with my model? Okay, maybe not. The overhead lines. They were working on the overhead lines, and we're one stop away from getting home. It's like pretty late at night, and they're like, oh, the workers broke the catenary line. We were so close. But yeah, the German trains are always late. It's their fault. They should fund the rail and fix it more. And there's a bunch of like projects too that have just been constantly delayed. Probably the most well-known one is Stuttgart 21. The 21 implying that it was supposed to open in 2021, which it has still not opened. It was the idea of like Stuttgart is in the southwest of Germany, big center, big city. They're gonna convert it from a station where trains have to like go in and then back out to a through station and like completely rebuild the stations from scratch. And it's like they drew up the plans for this like in like the late in like 90s. It's taken absolutely forever and it's still not done. And at one point the project was delayed by like a year because there were like 4 trees and no one could agree what to do with like replanting the trees.
I mean, if anything, I've learned this from other cities where I've lived, but if you have a construction project, you should never, ever name it after the date when it's supposed to open.
It's so true, though.
I have lived in a place where they said this thing will open in 2017, and then when it did not open in 2017, despite having the word, like the number 2017 in the name of the project, there was mass ridicule. Never ever name your project after the date when it's supposed to start.
Yeah, no, it just looks like even more of a mess now. I mean, Germany was kind of known for just being like having delays due to being sticklers on random things. Like I don't know, Stuttgart 21 might eclipse it in fame by now, but what used to be the most famous version of this was the airport in Berlin. When the airport was like about to open, like it was like they were like the weeks away from like everything being final. The airport was about to open, and it turned out they had installed like a different model of like fire stations and like a fire alarm stuff than they were in the original work documents. And they were like, in any other country, they would have just been like, okay, I guess we're using this new fire system now, and just like made sure that worked and tested it and stuff. And not in Germany. In Germany, they spent like $1 bajillion and like a year ripping out like every wall so they could do it like it said in the like original work document. Yeah, German trains not so good. And the other problem with German trains, if I can continue to yap, is that like German high-speed rail is like good when it works. And the thing is, German trains used to be on time. When I was a kid and taking German trains, they were like famous for being fast and on time, and like the German trains were the super reliable ones. It was great. Nowadays the Italian trains are on time and the German trains are always delayed. It's so wrong. But Germany doesn't have like when it comes to high-speed trains, Germany doesn't really have like city-to-city high-speed routes like France or Italy does. Where France, they built like, okay, this whole section from Paris to Lyon is gonna be like, we're gonna build this whole high-speed track here. The way they decided to build them in Germany, a part of this is because Germany's like a very decentralized kind of country and everything is spread out kind of randomly. Is we'll build just like corridors. We'll build a couple of corridors, kind of like in the middle of nowhere, where trains can go really fast. And then when it comes close to the city, they'll just use the normal tracks or whatever. The thing is that can work really well, and let trains go really fast, as long as you know exactly what you're doing and the trains are always on time. Because as soon as the trains are not on time, now you're 300 kilometer per hour super fast ICE3 is just waiting for other trains to pass as it tries to go on the super congested track into the like main station in the city, because there's nothing separate for high-speed trains there. They built a system that was very dependent on them being reliable and like precision, and they used to be reliable precision, and it used to work. I used to look at the little Der kleine ICE toy was like a little like mini ICE toy they would give you as a kid. I used to look on that thing with pride, but now I just now it's all gone wrong.
Twing.
Okay.
But Italian trains are great now. Yay, Italy, rah! I have to rep Italy. We love the Frecciarossa. They're so fast. They're so great. We have to end on a positive note.
I was actually going to
If
ask.
we're ending now, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. I was actually going to ask the train that we have in the background. Isn't that Belgium?
Looks like it. It's been so long. We've been planning this for so long. I like forgot about the picture. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it looks like the colors of like SNCB in Belgium, or SNCB/NMBS, because Belgium is bilingual, French and Dutch. Everything has two names. So SNCB is the French name, NMBS is the Dutch name.
By the way, for anyone in chat here, I think I did link the photo in the description. So if you'd like to go see that for yourself, it should be there.
Oh, perfect. The Belgian trains they're not good. They're not like horrible, but they're always covered in graffiti. That's why I'm like amazed that they got that picture. Every
It
Belgian
must have
train
been like a
I've
brand
seen,
new one.
yeah,
They just
it's
got
coming
like
like
a brand
right
new
off
one first day.
the depot. Yeah, every Belgian train I've seen has been covered in graffiti.
Okay. I think we've covered a lot of the things that we wanted to talk about. Once again, call from
We
chat.
have.
If you have anything more you want us to talk about, this is your last chance for the second time.
Yep. Bonus points if it's about how great Italy is. Nothing comes to mind.
Going
All right.
once, going twice. Sold to nobody.
All right. Well, thank you too for
All
joining
right.
us today. It's been a pleasure. Dan, do you have any announcements you want to
Sure.
share?
Thanks so much. I don't.
Do I have announcements? Or
Well, I'm asking the both of you, so yes.
I guess I'll go first. I stream tomorrow morning. I'm streaming Ocarina of Time, which has absolutely nothing to do with what is going on here. Link does not have a car, to my knowledge.
There we go.
So that'll be tomorrow morning. I also, this is not technically my project, but I am part of VTuber Symphony Orchestra, and we recently did a cover of Iron Mouse's Music Box of Fate. It is a huge group thing that was for charity. I don't know if I should probably link it. I
wanna
linked
see
it in my
this.
Discord earlier. So yeah, it was a big project. It had a very tight deadline, like a comedically tight deadline. Like it was like,
Oh no.
like it was like at everybody. Can you guys get this done in like a week? But yeah, it turned out really nice. I am not super audible in this, but I was part of the choir, not the big choir at the end, but the choir backup vocals. So yeah, I just want to show that one. That's the only other thing I have to show for now, I think.
All right.
That's awesome. The only announcements I have are, I don't know, to follow me because I will eventually have a video about trams, I promise. I believe. And then, yeah, there's not anything coming like super immediately, like tomorrow or anything. But in the next couple of days, I might be releasing a video. So
Maybe.
no spoilers as to what it is. It will not be about urbanism and transport, but it will involve Italy. So
There
I
you
get to
go.
pull that.
Follow Xenotime there, and also Eggy here. And for
Follow
anyone,
Eggy too.
anyone watching the VODs, I think their links should also be in the description. As for me, my second anniversary is coming up in a week. Yeah, in about a week. So there's that. I'll have something for that.
Yay.
Exciting.
Okay, I think that's it.
Yippee.
Chat, if you want a second episode of this, leave the comments and let us know.
Yeah.
We will try to all be available at the same time.
That's the thing with
Yes.
collabs. Okay,
We will do our best.
I think we'll end it off there. Thanks again to both of you, and good night, chat. Bye. Take the train.
Thank you for running this. And thanks for Cat. For being Cat. Bye.
Bye.